Yes, a Friday morning on 950 KJR. Hugh Breedlove Millen will be along at the beginning of the 7 o'clock hour. The Seahawks at 7. A daily ritual here on the radio program. Greg Bell, Seahawks insider for the Tacoma News Tribune, will join us as he does every day to help declare the top Seahawks stories of the morning.
A lot of them yesterday.
Schnozzes and text polls, and Hugh's got something to say, and phone polls, and Pete Carroll. Did Pete Carroll speak yesterday? I have not been alerted as to the topics. What are the topics?
Thomas Rawls, Luke Wilson, KJ Wright.
Are these what we're going to be playing?
Yeah,
these are the topics?
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of news yesterday, at least.
Justin Britt.
Oh, yeah. That's the biggest news of the morning, at least of yesterday.
More reps for Eddie Lacy.
Pete Carroll at 8:45 on 950 KJR. Great debate. I thought that Eddie Lacy, I was told during the final week before the first preseason game, I was told by the guys out there, the Gregs and the Bobs, that Eddie Lacy was going to get the Adrian Peterson treatment. And I bristled. Do you remember me bristling? Eddie Lacy is not deserving of the Adrian Peter, that he's going to get the Marshawn Lynch treatment this preseason.
I heard exactly what they said, and I viewed it completely different from what you said, or from what you viewed it as.
Yeah.
You viewed it as the Marshawn Lynch treatment. I just viewed it as there's so many people getting carries, he's just not going to get that many.
Well, no,
I didn't view it as, he's the veteran, he doesn't need to run.
I heard, and I may have been off the air as much as on the air, that he's going to get very limited carries because they're saving him for the regular season, and he's coming hobbled in with an injury that he's trying to recover from last year. And therefore, they're going to be very, very careful in how many carries. And I was led to believe that the first game, he might not get a carry. He might get one the first game. And they used him on that one drive, one after the other. And I don't know what they're going to do tonight. Just because Thomas Rawls is hurt doesn't mean they have to give Eddie Lacy carries. They got plenty of guys to give carries to, and we're going to hope that they're going to give carries to Chris Carson, because we got him in the showdown. We got Chris Carson in the showdown.
Most carries, is it most carries or most yards?
There would be a shocker. We made a mistake on the showdown. Really? I've never heard that one before. Dead last, Mr. and Mr. Dead last.
I think we should have gone with Javon Boykin
as the leading carrier in the offseason.
Yeah, the most rushing.
Because he's gonna run around and make play. I don't think he's gonna have the most rushing.
Well, he already does for now.
Does he?
That's one game though.
Yeah,
and he's not going
to be out there for quarters at a time.
Does he have that many more than everybody else?
He has.
I don't know. How many did he have the other day? Did he race for lots of yards? I don't remember him racing for
34 yards.
Did he have 30? Okay, well, that's not an insurmountable mountain.
No, not at all.
We can scale that mountain. Let me tell you something. If that's an insurmountable mountain, the Seahawks running game is in a lot more trouble than anybody would know.
No, and I'm not even talking about the head start. I'm just saying I could see it trending that way for the rest of camp or the rest of preseason.
Pete Carroll at 8:45. Great debates. What's going to happen? I told you what's going to happen. What? One of the running backs, and I'm not even going to try to take a stab at who, is going to break a long one. And that's going to be it.
CJ Prosite.
Somebody's going to break a long one. Somebody's going to break a 65 or 70-yard run.
Could be Boykin.
Probably won't be him, but one of the running backs is going to get a ball, and it's going to be one big carry that carries the leading rusher. The leading preseason rusher will be determined on that one carry.
Could.
Some guy's going to break off a 45 or 50-yard run. Might not even be a touchdown.
It ain't going to be Eddie Lacy. I don't see him running 45 yards.
He's going to get exhausted, or is he going to get caught?
Unless they put a cheeseburger on a fishing pole in front of him.
Listen to him with Eddie Lacy.
I know.
Wow.
He's not the only one.
That's terrible.
It's absolutely constipated thinking.
It's what?
Constipated thinking.
Explain that one to me. Constipated thinking.
Like there's this block that Eddie Lacy can't do anything because in the offseason he gained weight. Like it's mind-numbing.
Wow. Does it bother you a little bit?
It's just that's the
It
only
looks
narrative.
like it bothers you a little
It's
bit.
the only narrative
Looks like
on
it bothers-
Eddie
And that's
Lacy.
Are you
why
Eddie
I
Lacy's
say
agent?
it.
You
No,
look
it's
like
just-
is he a distant cousin?
It's so tired.
Do you eat burgers with
They
him?
have a similar body type.
All the fat jokes. It's
The fat jokes.
tired. It's so tired.
Well,
look
he's
at him
losing
as-
weight.
Let's look at him as a football player, as a Seahawk that we're going to root for.
Okay, let's look
and
at him.
maybe hope that he does well.
We're gonna root for him.
Let's look at him as a football player. What does he look to you like as a football player? And in the first game, what did he look to you? Does he not look heavy?
I only got 4
Does he not?
carries.
Okay, but does he not look a little sluggish and a little heavy?
He looks
like-
sluggish. He looks
no?
a little heavy.
Okay.
He looks heavy.
I have an open mind.
Because he is heavy.
I have an open mind. I don't know. I wouldn't bet on a big year from Eddie Lacy. But I felt that. Now, I got to give the guy credit. How much weight has he lost since he interviewed? What did we decide he interviewed at?
267.
I think so, yeah.
That's what he interviewed at? I thought it was in the 270s, no?
Maybe at one point. What do you mean interviewed at?
When he came in for the interviews,
thought
he
it
was
was
at an
260.
all-time high.
Did he get
was
to
at an all-time
270?
and I was killing him like, this is the most important financial 2 weeks of your life. Get yourself in. When you go on these interviews, don't show up at your all-time highest weight. Come on, huh? Isn't it important to you? I mean, if I was his agent, I've been scolding him.
I agree.
To do me a favor, go on. I mean, even if it's just for 2 weeks, let's put our best foot forward so that we can get as much money in the free agency period as not. And I don't remember what that number was. It 267.
I thought
That
for some
stuck
reason
in my mind,
that
too.
does.
I think so.
So what is he now?
Well, his last
240?
weigh-in was 250. They want him
Oh.
at 245.
Oh, I thought he's been at 240 already.
So he's only lost 20 pounds.
That's not bad.
They want him to play at 245.
Not bad. We're not
That's
even to
just-
the regular. We still got 3
Well,
weeks.
it's just one buffet a day instead of 3 is all that is.
Look at him. You're pissing slick
I
cock
know,
off.
I
Stop
know.
that.
It's just,
You're
no,
pissing him
it's
off.
all I've heard since like April when we signed the guy.
Well, he is a little bit of a porker.
He's a bigger running back.
He's an eater.
Did you guys do this with TJ Duckett?
He loves T.J. Duckett.
Wow,
T.J. Duckett, when he took his shirt off, looked like you ran the other way when T.J. Duckett.
He was a big
he
boy.
was a
big boy.
He was Mr. America, for God's sakes. He wasn't fat. He wasn't a fatso.
Well,
It wasn't
it's not
Dom
like Eddie Lacy's all
DeLuise.
fat. Like there's some
DeLuise
there's some
with the
muscle
little hat.
there.
We've got Dom DeLuise running in number 27.
little
this
chef's
year.
hat on.
I mean, you don't remember Dom DeLuise?
No.
You don't know Dom DeLuise.
I'll show him a picture. Of
A
Dom
famous
DeLuise.
fat actor who kind of made a career
Out of
over
being
taking
fat.
shots at himself being fat.
Okay.
And in fact, was the star of a movie called Fatso.
Is that right?
Yes, he was.
I
It
didn't
was a
remember
movie
that.
called Fatso, starring Dom
Dom
DeLuise. There you go. So Dom DeLuise gets a mention early in the show today. So Pete Carroll today at 8:45. Great debates, and Marshawn, and I think I'll give away my preseason tonight's game. I'll give away my tickets. I don't plan to go tonight, so I will have some Vikings Seahawks, really good seats to see the Vikings and
Nice.
Seahawks
That's
tonight
a good one.
at some point on the radio program today. The football story is the Justin Britt story. What did you guys said a lot of storylines. Well, we have the injured. I was watching, by the way, at practice the other day. I guess it would have been Wednesday. I was watching Thomas Rawls standing on the sideline, and I noticed beneath his long pants, he was wearing like long sweatpants, where there was something on his ankle. There was a little something, a little device on his ankle, and I was
Hope it
wondering.
wasn't a monitor.
I was wondering. It was.
tracker.
I don't think it was a tracker. There was a little something on
House
his
arrest.
ankle, and I was thinking to myself, "Oh boy." So he's not going to play. That's one of the storylines, right? He's got a sore ankle.
Yeah.
And what are the other storylines from Seahawks?
KJ Wright expected to be back on Monday
He's
after
been-
his process.
He's been given a week abroad or somewhere. He's gone on a
Yeah.
cruise. He's been eating shrimp
Yep.
for a week. Yeah.
Luke Wilson groin should be back, but not tonight.
Boy, there's another one. There's another oft-injured Seahawk player. My God, Luke Wilson is always hurt. He's always banged up.
Really, you've got your three. The left side and middle of your offensive line are pretty much set.
You know what the poll question is today?
No.
It'll be the same poll question as we did last week at about this time, which is, who are you now most curious to watch, either good or bad? Who are you most curious to watch tonight in preseason games? I've got about 5 guys. I got about 5 guys that I'm curious to watch tonight for lots of reasons. Some good, some not so good.
My number one is Dom DeLuise in the backfield.
You want to see Eddie Lacy.
Yes.
You're curious to see what Eddie Lacy is going to bring to the table.
When he gets 8 to 10 carries, what he looks like.
Okay. All right. So we'll ask that question of our listeners in game number 2, and it might be based on what you saw in game number 1. It may not be based on what you saw in game number 1. Who are you most curious? Curious. Remember, the word is curious. It's not excited because that would only be good, and it's not worried because that would denote bad. It could be either way. For any reason at all? Who are you most? Maybe it's Boykin again. Mm-hmm. Maybe you're most curious to see Boykin.
Can Kason Williams follow it up?
Kason Williams might be a great.
Follow it up.
How about Amara Darbo?
Curious to see. I just like
is
to
he,
see
is
him
he going to play?
at all.
Is he going to play?
I haven't heard anything from Amara.
Well, he didn't play. He's not
But
playing. He's not playing.
That's been my biggest.
There's one that you might.
Of the preseason.
There's one you might want to circle for tonight if he's going to get some game action.
Okay, do this. Tell me what number Amaro Darbo wears.
I can tell you.
What?
Oh, you can then. Okay.
Oh, I don't know that I can. I think 84.
Yeah, it's 84.
Yeah, 84. He's Joey Galloway.
Joey Galloway. Wow.
I prefer to think of more as Bobby Ingram, but okay.
Bobby Ingram. Bobby Ingram. Okay. All right. So preseason game number 2 is tonight. Obviously, we'll focus a lot on that when Hugh gets here at 7 with the Seahawks at 7 and Greg Bell at 7 as well, and Pete Carroll's press conference and Marshawn Lynch as well. That won't be about the Seahawks preseason, but you get a kick out of that. I think the whole world saw that on ESPN. Tonight becomes. Can we call it the stretch run? If you looked at a 162-game marathon.
What do you mean? It's the beginning of the season. We started over.
That's right. Yeah. If you look at a 162-game marathon season, 40 games. I guess that's a quarter of the year. We still have a quarter of the year left. Are we to the stretch yet or not? Is this the stretch run or not?
Think of this.
I guess the stretch is kind of the last 20 games. I
kind of think beginning of September is the stretch.
All right, so we still have another 13 days
until
before we get to the game run. So this is all still a warm up to the stretch run.
Yeah.
The Seattle Mariners begin the night. A game and a half. Is it still a game and a half? They didn't lose ground yesterday. A game and a half behind the wild card spot with 40 games remaining. And the question now becomes, can, in this pillow fight of all pillow fights, with lots and lots and lots of very mediocre at best teams chasing one spot, but there's only one chair, can the team... How do you view baseball? Can the team over a 40-game period, and I don't know, the one part about this that I don't know, and none of us really know, is will James Paxton come back? Will Felix Hernandez come back? If they do come back, when will they come back? And if they do come back, how will they be? Will they be when they get back? Yeah. Will they need rehab starts when they come back, which is going to chew up a little bit more of this 40 games? Mm-hmm. But at least to start the 40-game stretch, can a team, and look, I'm no expert on Kansas City. I'm no expert on the Angels. I'm no expert on the Rangers. I'm no expert on the Twins. I'm no expert on the Rays. I don't watch them day to day. I'm no expert. But I'm going to go ahead and stick my neck out and say there is nobody, including those teams or any other teams, right this very moment, that's got a worse starting rotation than our beloved Seattle Mariners.
No
I
question.
can't believe that anywhere out there, find me a team that's 75 games under 500. I don't care. I can't believe with what I'm looking at and I'm considering I just need to, everybody knows it, but I just need to just read them to you one more time. And by the way, be careful on what you think of when you hear names, because certain names, one in particular, you're going to hear and you're going to say, he's not so bad. But he has been maybe the worst of all of them in the last 6 or 7 starts. So be careful with what you attribute to a name recognition. But here, just think of this for a second. Here are, and not necessarily in any order, here are the 5 guys that make up currently the Seattle Mariners starting rotation. We'll start with Andrew Albers.
Why are we starting with Andrew Albers?
Because he's got the best ERA of all of them.
Well, he had one game.
Andrew
One run,
Albers.
5 innings.
Yeah, baby. 1.85 ERA. Let's go. Slick Hawk.
It's not a 1.85 ERA.
What
it's
is
a
it?
1.80 ERA.
Oh, sorry. 1.80.
Don't cheat him. It's 0.05 of a point.
I like myself.
Marco Gonzalez,
Gonzalez.
who has given up 20 hits in 12 innings.
Oh, my God.
Who's got a 7, who's going to get a G2 at 7-11 with his
ERA?
with his 7.11 ERA.
It's got to come down then, right?
Oh, thank heaven for Marco Gonzalez.
A G2?
Whatever.
Like a Slurpee.
A Slurpee.
You can get a G2 at 7-Eleven, I bet.
Why?
Those big old 32-ounce
That is so random.
I don't know.
A G2.
Because that's the last thing I ever got at 7-Eleven.
How about a
Really?
tasty
Yes.
cake? He could get a tasty cake.
No, you can't.
You can get a hot
can?
dog.
No, you can't.
You
can
get
get
a
a
tasty cake.
No, you can't get a tasty cake at 7-Eleven. You can get a tasty cake in 7-Elevens in Pennsylvania. You can't get no tasty cakes at 7-Elevens in
You
Seattle.
get a snowball.
You
No,
get
you
Twinkies.
can't.
You can get a
The
ho-ho.
next time you see a tasty cake at 7-Eleven, buy the whole box and I'll reimburse you for it.
Really?
Yes.
Ooh, okay.
If you see a tasty cake, what are you laughing at? You see a tasty cake
You're gonna
at
end up like Eddie
7-Eleven,
Lacy.
you take out your credit card.
Eddie Lacy's
you
gonna
tell
steal
the guy in the front, if you have any packs of these in the back, I want every tasty cake you have in the store I want to buy because my buddy wants to
All right.
reimburse
How long
me.
are they good for?
A day or two.
I was going to say a year or two.
Oh, I don't know. I want them all.
All right.
Marco Gonzalez with a 7-11 ERA. 7-11 ERA. Yovani Gallardo.
He's been fantastic.
Oh, my God. He is awful. He's got a 5.84 ERA.
Oh, that could be worse.
And his is real because it's over a lot of innings.
Yeah. And I feel like his relief innings brought that down a
I mean,
lot.
Alber's
it's
ERA isn't real. Marco Gonzalez ERA isn't real because they've only made a few starts.
Hold on, because of
Okay,
his
Marco
bullpen innings.
Gonzalez's ERA is real. I sat there watching Marco Gonzalez the other day. I was at the game that Marco Gonzalez pitched. And I just stood there with my chin in my hands, saying to myself, Self, you're a Mariners fan, so it would be totally inappropriate to close the book on this young guy who's coming back from Tommy John surgery, and I don't know, maybe Marco Gonzalez is going to be good someday. So I'm not writing him off.
Give the kid a chance.
But right now, this guy is terrible.
How many starts he made? 4?
I don't know. 3 starts. He's got a 7.11 ERA.
So what's
He's terrible.
What's Gallardo's ERA?
Well, he's 5.84, but he's like his last few starts, he's got an ERA of about 10 also.
Well, the 5.84 is actually deceptively good because of his bullpen innings that brought him down.
True. As a starter's probably
It's
7.
a deceptively good 5.84 ERA.
Let me tell you something about the guy who I had to listen to and be criticized the entire first half of the season because I'm unfair to Ariel Miranda, calling him nothing more than calling him nothing more than a 5th starter.
He's my boy, Ariel Miranda.
Your boy is losing you your bet.
What's his ERA now?
His ERA is 4.75.
Got to bring it down a little bit.
The comment that I made when he had like a 3.1 ERA was he'll end up with an ERA closer to 5 than 4. And you said, I'll take that bet.
So it's still very much.
Oh, I may lose it.
Very
Do
much in the
you know? Let's do a little math. Who's got a calculator on Ariel Miranda?
right.
You want a little Ariel Miranda math? The guy that I was so unfair to, calling him nothing more than a marginal 5th starter? Your boy Ariel Miranda. Let's do a little math on this.
All right.
Little Syracuse math. 11, 13, 17, 22, 28, 11, 13, 16, 20, 30 divided by 37. 30 divided by 37 times 9. That would be, whatever that says, your calculator says.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that would be his ERA since July 5th, his last 7 starts. That goes back before the All-Star break. This is not a little sample set.
Right,
before the All-Star. What does that ERA say?
I don't want to tell you.
Tell me what it says.
I'm not going to tell you.
Tell me what your boy says. What is it?
7.29.
He's got a 7.29 ERA since July 5th, before the All-Star break, in his last 7 starts. Come on. This has got to be, this may be, there's some Elias Sports Bureau guy out there who probably would tell you, of any pennant contending, is it a pennant contending team? I guess a wild card. Of any playoff contending team in the month of August and September, this might be, forget the worst rotation this year. This might be, right now, the worst rotation in the history of playoff contending teams. They are going out every night with one of those guys. Marco Gonzalez, Andrew Albers, Yovani Gallardo, Ariel Miranda with not Ariel Miranda with the 3 ERA, Ariel Miranda with a 7 ERA the last
and Andrew Moore with a 9.
No, he's not in there.
He's not pitching?
Well, he's not one of the rotation guys.
Well, ESPN keeps saying he is.
Is he? No.
Who's
it would
the
be
fifth?
Well, it would be Albers,
Marco
Polo,
Marco
Ariel.
Gonzo.
Gallardo. That's 3.
Miranda.
That's 4.
Miranda. That's
Who's your
4.
fifth? Andrew Moore.
No,
he's not in the rotation. He hasn't been in the rotation.
not Andrew Moore.
Who was
He
he?
came up for like
Who
a
we
day
missing?
and went
Andrew
back.
Albers.
He's not even up.
I thought you said
That's
that.
Andrew Albers. Oh, I don't have a 5th guy?
Yeah, we do.
Erasmo. Erasmo Ramirez.
My boy, Erasmo.
I haven't gotten to Erasmo Ramirez yet.
Andrew Moore isn't even on the team.
Erasmo Ramirez is your 5th starter.
Erasmo. Yeah.
And how do you feel when Erasmo Ramirez is on the mound?
Oh, I was.
What kind of chance do you feel like when Erasmo Ramirez is on the mound? Honestly. What kind of chance?
Well, I know exactly how I felt when I read on Twitter.
I'm asking you a question.
What?
When you pick up the paper, you sit down to watch the game, let's say tonight or whenever it is, and you hear Erasmo Ramirez is your starting pitcher, how much of a chance do you? What are your feelings when he's on the mound?
Terrible.
Okay,
Same as they
he's
are.
your best pitcher.
Pitcher.
Your guy that gives you the true best pitcher who gives you the best chances, the guy that you just said, I feel terrible when he's on the mound. That's your best of the 5. That's truly the guy, if you want to know, statistically speaking, who gives you right this very moment the best chance to win a game of your starters, of the 5 we just mentioned. It is Erasmo Ramirez. Not that he's any good. He gives you your best chance when you consider everything. That's not Andrew Albers because he's got a 180 ERA over 1 start.
Right.
It's Erasmo. You just said that you feel terrible when the best guy of your current rotation is on the. What does that say to you? How do you feel the other 4 nights if you feel terrible when Erasmo Ramirez is on the mound?
Worse than terrible.
Okay, so can they do it? This is going to be a great baseball experiment. Everybody says the most important thing in baseball, starting pitching, or the most important thing in baseball, offense, or the most important thing in baseball, defense. Well, we're going to have a 40-game experiment. This is going to be unless Paxton and Felix come back, and if they do, all bets off. Now I like your chances. If you can somehow stay afloat until they get back and they truly pitch the way we know they can pitch. But if they don't, this is one of the great experiments because we all think that they have the best offense of anybody in the playoff race right now. Or did you guys decide that? Baltimore's pretty good. But they have a great offense, right?
Yeah.
The Mariners have a very good offense. How's the bullpen?
Good.
They got a good bullpen. How's the defense?
Good.
Good. They got a good defense. And they've got one of the most historically bad start. So we're going to see how important
can you win without a rotation?
Can you win literally when your ace that's on the hill, Mariners fan over here says, I feel terrible about the chances when your ace is on the hill.
We need a number. We need to come up with a number.
What's the number? What do you want to know?
Out of these 40 games, what's our number we're trying to get to?
Told you, 24-16.
What's the number? I don't understand what you're asking.
We're going to get the wild card.
Geez. I still think it's going to be 85, 86 wins.
85? 24-16. That's
it may not be
85
87,
wins.
88, but somebody's going to get hot. Remember, we got to remember, September call-ups. You start playing against teams after September 1st, you start playing against teams that are experimenting with AAA guys in rotations. There are going to be some much more winnable games for everybody, for us and for everybody else.
Well, how many teams are you playing in September that are crappy?
Well, I don't know. I've not looked at the schedule. We got to get going. It's Friday morning. Hugh will be with us at 7. Seahawks at 7. We got lots of stuff today. He's got something to say at 8. Pete Carroll, Marshawn Lynch, great debates, phone polls. We've got tickets to tonight's game for the Seahawks. We've got tickets for the 16th and final regular season game for the Seahawks. We got a lot to do on 950 KJR. Here we go. If Slickhawk said to me, Mitch, you could have any scenario take place tonight at CenturyLink Field.
Yes. You would say no injuries.
Oh, yeah, no injuries. But any scenario, any game scenario. You know what I would order up?
A game-winning Blair Walsh field goal.
You got me. You got me. I would order up a game they're 2 points down and ask Blair Walsh to go out from 47 yards on a beautiful August night. Preseason games don't matter.
Yeah,
not a lot of
is there pressure?
Not a lot of pressure. No. It's the most pressure that you can have during a preseason game.
Right.
I would like the game to be on the line, and I like to see him go and have to kick a 47-yard field goal to either win it or lose it at the end.
All right.
That's what I would like to see.
I'll sign up for that.
I'd like to see it. I think we would learn a little bit, if not a lot, about, well, let's put it this way. If he made it, we wouldn't learn a lot. If he missed it, we would learn more than if he made it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Assuming good snap, good hold, good blocking, no block, no guy going up with his one hand, his big paw, and he blocks it from the middle. Assuming everything is good snap, good hold, good blocking. If he just flat out missed it, I think you would learn something about Blair Walsh. Do you disagree with that?
Maybe a little bit.
No, I don't think I do.
You don't think you do what?
Disagree.
Okay. So I'd like to see that situation. I don't want 38 yards.
No.
I don't want
a tester.
47. And I don't want 60 yards.
Right.
I want 47. 47 yards. That's the sweet spot. A kick that you can reasonably say you need your kicker to be able to make at the end of games if you're going to have a good kicker. Right?
Yeah.
That you could expect he's going to make a 47-yarder when the conditions are really good around him at the end of a game. All right? Morning montage from the Carter Volkswagen studio. Michael Bennett says that white players speaking out will go a long way.
I honestly believe that it would take a white player to be able to really get things changed, because when somebody from the other side understands and they step up and they speak about it, it would change the whole conversation, because you bring somebody who doesn't really have to be a part of the conversation to bringing themselves and making themselves vulnerable in front of it. And I think when that happens, things will really take a big jump.
Pete Carroll on the left side of the Seahawks offensive line.
Luke Jokel's going to start at left guard, and George is starting left tackle, and we think that that's a really good combination there on the left side. So I feel really good about that right now going into this game. You know, we're always growing with the information, but I see Luke as our starting left guard and see George as our starting left tackle right now.
So you see that, and you see Britt at center. Mm-hmm. So that's 60%. Now we got to work on the right side. We've got Ibushi.
Yep.
And Glowinski.
Yep. And Posick.
And Affetti. Two of those four guys are probably going to start on opening day in Green Bay for the Seahawks. Currently, it's Ibushi and Affetti. At least it was the other night. We'll see if Glowinski or Posick could sneak into the role.
Who could beat Affetti at right tackle?
Posick.
All right.
Hugh might say anyone. Might be the answer to that question.
Yes, he would.
NFL PA leader DeMaurice Smith.
All of the mutual benefits that were supposed to happen as a result of the opt-out didn't happen last time. Owners colluded with each other, and we found out they colluded with each other, and all of the bad things that went to the players happened, and none of the bad things that went to the owners happened. So we have a new deal where if it doesn't get fixed, you head into a certain small A Armageddon.
Could be labor dispute.
My sheet says Jay Cutler finds Devontae Parker for a Dolphins preseason touchdown when I happen to know that Jay Cutler didn't throw a touchdown pass last night. So
Play action fake. Back to throw. Fires. Got a wide open Parker on a deep slant route. Down to the 42-yard line of Baltimore. Brandon Carr brought him down, but a nice bullet to Parker.
Oh, my gosh. Jay Cutler put it right on. Nice little play action. Stepped up and let it go. Boy, that was nice.
New preseason rules place the end zone at either
42-yard line.
45.
Okay.
Yeah.
And by the way, I think even that one was called back due to a penalty.
Was it really?
Yeah, all of his good plays last night were called back due to a penalty. Cutler talks about shaking off the nerves.
A little nervous to get it going, but once we got out there, it was fun. I mean, these guys are really talented on the outside, so they make it pretty easy for me.
Devontae Parker, intriguing little fantasy wide receiver this year, don't you think? Don't you think?
I like the other one.
I think that Devontae Parker has a lot of, shall I say, James Paxton or Paul Richardson? Who should I compare him to?
Well, since he's a wide receiver, compared to Paul Richardson.
Paul Richardson? Okay.
He shows up every once in a while.
Oh, he's good when he's in there.
When he's in there.
And it's just a matter of time before he's not in there anymore. Blake Bortles misses. Blake Bortles has been terrible.
Dropping the throw is Blake. Fires deep down the middle of the field. Wants Allen Robinson. Incomplete. Allen broke free, but the ball was behind him. It's incomplete. It's going to be fourth down. There are some boos here in the stadium.
What a disaster that draft pick.
I met with both quarterbacks afterwards. I told them what I'm looking for is I'm looking for someone that's going to lead this offense. So I'm not happy with the performance today. I'm not going to sit here and BS anyone. I mean, everyone saw it out there. Whatever you want to call it, I'm still trying to evaluate who the best person is at that position. But I also said this, I wasn't able to speak to the team after I spoke to both quarterbacks, but I just want to make sure everyone understands that if you can do this at the quarterback position, you know, all the other positions are very easy to do.
Not sure I understand that, what he's trying to say.
Have it up in question if that player is going to continue to be in that role.
He's talking about competition.
Competition.
Why don't you trade him Trevon Boykin? Let him be their starter.
Because we need Trevon Boykin.
Okay. Yeah, what happens to us then?
Trade Trevon Boykin for their best offensive lineman, and let's get on with it.
If you do that, maybe you don't need Trevon Boykin.
And then you sign Colin Kaepernick as your backup quarterback.
Ian Happ was home run happy.
Here's a drive into deep center field. Back goes Hamilton. This is a long home run. Ian Happ with his second of the day. It's 9-5.
This is the next one is the National League All-Star guy, Ender Inciarte.
Driven to center field and deep. Back toward the wall. Blackman at the fence. Gone! Ender Inciarte with his second home run of the game. And this one puts the Braves in front 3-2.
And Josh Donaldson for the Blue Jays.
The pitch belted deep center field.
Everybody
Back for it goes Malik Smith. He's at the wall, looks up. There she goes. He's done it a second time here today. Home run number 20 for number 20.
Q's on the way. He's 19 minutes away, as is Greg Bell. Seahawks at 7 with Seahawks insider Greg Bell. All the news of the morning, you can count on it at 7 a.m. every day throughout the football season. Greg Bell, Seahawks insider, covers the Seahawks every day of his life, is with us to share with us the news in the morning. Hugh begins his sit-down with us at 7 o'clock, too. He's got something to say at 8, Hugh does. Pete Carroll today in the 8 o'clock hour. Marshawn Lynch in the 9 o'clock hour. Poll questions. Who are you most curious to watch in game number 2 of the preseason tonight? I got a few. I've just been jotting notes. I hate to have to limit it to one. I got a few that I'll be watching tonight very closely. As we continue on the Friday edition, plus your chance to win 50-yard line seats to the Seahawks and Cardinals in Game 16 and tonight. 50-yard line seats for tonight's game. We'll give those away, too, tonight on 950. Today on 950. Minutes away from the Seahawks at 7 and the arrival of Hugh Breedlove Millen. He'll join us also at 7 o'clock. Greg Bell, Tacoma News-Tribune Seahawks insider who covers this team as close as anybody, will be with us for his daily morning ritual. Talking to Mitch and Dick and Slick and Hugh at 7 a.m. That starts his day every day.
Beautiful. With a dark, intense mocha. Intense dark mocha.
That's probably where Hugh is right now, having his intense dark, having his Slick Hawk. They've renamed it a Slick Hawk.
You can have your Slick Hawk and eat it too.
Drink it too.
Justin Britt is the story over there at the VMAC. He signed an extension, and there's one guy who's probably more disappointed than any. Who's the most disappointed guy on the entire Seattle Seahawks roster over Justin Britt signing an extension?
Tom Cable?
I think it impacts one guy more than anybody over there.
I was going to say Tom Cable so he can't shuffle around guys at positions. That he's got to leave Justin Britt there.
Who said he does? He can shuffle him around all he wants. I'm happy for Justin Britt. Nice guy. Justin Britt, terrible guard, terrible tackle, pretty good center. And most importantly, he's by far the best offensive lineman you've got on your football team. So you had to give him what I thought was a very reasonable 3-year, $27 million extension. It doesn't even start this year. It starts next year. So you got him for 4 more years. And there's not a whole hell of a lot of guaranteed money, which means at some point in a year or two, you could say, you know what, he's not as good as we all thought he was going to be. Let's just rid ourselves of Justin Britt. Once you maybe build around him and build some other, you get some other pieces. But as long as he's your best offensive lineman, don't you guys agree? Mm-hmm. No matter, you could call him a mediocre center, you could call him a good center, you could call him a near Pro Bowl center, you can call him whatever you want. If he's a mediocre center, you might argue, well, a mediocre center shouldn't be getting $9 million or $10 million or $11 million a year. But at the same rate, if he's a mediocre center and he's your best offensive lineman and you've got nothing but disarray around him, doesn't that inflate his value to you as opposed to other teams?
I would think so.
So I think this is a good deal.
Yeah.
I think I haven't looked at the numbers in terms of the salary cap hits the next few years, but this strikes me as a good, solid deal for the Seahawks. And it also plays to the disadvantage, I believe, of one guy that we spoke a lot about earlier this week on this radio program. I think it changes everything for a guy named Jimmy Graham.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Jimmy Graham for a second. How does the Justin Britt contract affect Jimmy Graham? Well, if you're telling me, and you guys did the research, I didn't, that the Justin Britt contract is kind of up there in the top echelon of centers, although you remind me that it would be done based on offensive linemen franchising him. Mm-hmm. And you just assumed for a second that it was a priority for the Seahawks based on yesterday. You'd have no other opinion. That's a priority to keep Justin Britt. They wanted to keep Justin Britt here. Sure. Then the whole franchise tag thing would have been a little bit let's say Jimmy Graham goes out and has the year that we all hope that he'll have. The year that he looks like he could be capable of having again. And maybe Russell Wilson starts to lean on number 88 a little bit more than he has. And he comes out of the 16th game and he's got 80 catches and 10 touchdowns. Now you want Jimmy Graham back, right?
Yeah.
And he's working on this series of one-year deals. And to sign him back, he's going to be 29 or 30 or 31 years old, right, at that time, something like that. He's going to want a good chunk of change, a good chunk of guaranteed money, a good chunk of upfront money, signing bonus money. That's what he would want in his career at this particular point. Anybody at that point in his career. Well, you can franchise him, as you guys pointed out when we were arguing this the other day. You could franchise him, and all you're doing is you're guaranteeing him the average of the top five tight ends, which he already is, isn't he? Yeah. It's got to be easily in the average of the top. His $10 million has got to be right up there. What?
It exceeds the
So
average.
you actually get him on a discount if you franchise him. The only complication to that would have been if you had Britt as a free agent at the same time, right? If you have Britt as a free agent and you got to get Britt back, and let's say there are teams out there looking at Britt going, good young center, let's overpay him. If there's a bad football team out there that would give him a pretty big contract, a contract that's bigger than you want to give Justin Britt, you might just franchise Justin Britt, your top offensive lineman, and then that frees up Jimmy Graham to do whatever the hell he wants, whether he comes back to go out and shop himself around. Now, you kind of have Jimmy Graham, by doing this Britt contract, you kind of have Jimmy Graham by the balls at the end of the year if you really want him back.
I don't know.
Am I forgetting?
Really changed.
Am I forgetting anything?
Well, that franchise tag for Jimmy Graham, I've read it could be as much as $15 million.
He said it's less. He just finished saying
what tight ends were last year was.
Yeah, but it takes into consideration what he was already making, and that is in the collective bargaining agreement. You can't go down.
You can't go down. You can't go down.
You got to give him You got to give him a prorated bonus on what he was already making. Still, it's like 20%.
But still, you can get him back on a 1-year deal.
Yes,
1-year deal.
Now,
you don't have to
pay him.
You don't have to commit
a lot, but it's a 1-year deal.
You don't have to commit. Tons of signing bonus money and 2- and 3-year deals, which he's going to want. If he's
it's a monster cap hit, though.
Oh, you're going to try. You're going to try to do it.
I'd rather.
The point is the leverage. The Justin Britt signing yesterday changes the leverage dynamic in a negotiation between Jimmy Graham and the team and anybody else. And I'm probably forgetting some other guys that are going to be free. Who are the other guys that are going to be free agents at the end of the year? Anybody?
No, that's not till after next year.
He's not a free agent at the end of the year.
I mean, they're a guy I can look.
Yeah, we can look it up.
Yeah, we can look.
Okay.
But were you really going to give Justin Britt the average at the top 5 offensive linemen in the league?
No.
You were going to do whatever you needed to do.
They weren't going to do that.
To sign him.
I don't think they were going to do that.
You were not going to let him go. You were not going to let him walk out the door.
Right.
There was no way Justin Britt was walking out the door. So you were going to have to do whatever you're going to have to do to get Justin Britt back here. And now you don't have to worry. It's all done. It's all buttoned up. It's all signed, and you can devote your franchise tag or your attention or your energy elsewhere. And I think that hurts potential free agents. Whether they were going to give Britt the free agent, the franchise tender or not, we don't have to worry about that.
And I'm okay, if Jimmy Graham does have 80 and 1,010 this year, I'm okay paying him $15 million.
Free agents next year. Jimmy, Jokel, Lacey, McDougald, Luke Wilson, Will Hoyt, Deshaun Shedd, Richardson, Blair Walsh, Ode Abushi, Britt no longer, Garvin, Austin Davis, Pierre Desir, David Bass.
And what I learned a long time ago is you never want to be number 1 on that list.
Cromartie, McCray,
You're much better
McDowell,
being number 2 on that list.
What do you mean?
Of a list of free agents, you don't ever want to be the number 1 free agent on the list. You want to be the second most important free agent on the list. And until yesterday, he might have been the second most important, and now he rises to first most important.
Because that's the guy that could get franchised.
Right. The most important guy is the guy that you threaten to franchise and threaten to bring back on a 1-year deal and all that stuff.
And you got all the leverage.
And you got all the leverage.
Yeah.
It's always better to have the second biggest house on the block as opposed to the biggest house on the block. Anyway, let's get going. Seahawks at 7. Hugh Millen will be in here also. 9:50 KJR. Let's go. Good morning. The Seattle Mariners embark upon, what is it, a 12-game, 13-day road trip. Woo! They started off 50-50, 500, a game and a half behind a wild card position in the American League. They'll be in Tampa tonight. Can the starting rotation give them just enough? Or will the bubble burst and the Mariners fall? 12 games, 13 days, all on the road. 61-61, a game and a half, the second wild card behind the second wild card in the American League. Seahawks tonight, preseason game number 2. We're asking you the question today. Who are you most curious to watch in game number 2? Either based on game number 1, maybe you didn't even see game number 1. Maybe because he didn't play in game number 1. Maybe it's because he played well in game number 1, Kason Williams, Trevon Boykin. Maybe it's because there seems to be a hotly contested spot up for grabs at his position. Jermaine Ifedi, Mark Lewinsky, Ode Obushi.
Ethan Posick.
Ethan Posick. Who are you most looking forward? That's not right. Who are you most curious to see is the poll question of the morning. We're going to be giving you away a chance to win 50-yard line seats to the 16th and final game of the regular season, the Cardinals and the Seahawks. Also, we'll be giving away 50-yard line seats for tonight's game between the Vikings and the Seahawks in preseason game number 2. If you'd like to go to tonight's game, all you got to do is participate on the poll question when we ask you to. Call or to text at 49451, and we will give away those sets of tickets at some point, at least tonight's game tickets today. Other things happening in the world of sports, Justin Britt, we're going to talk a little bit to Greg Bell, the Seahawks insider, here in a moment. Seahawks at 7 with Greg Bell. Justin Britt signs a 3-year contract extension. The center, I guess the most stabilizing force in the offensive line right now. He was a Pro Bowl alternate last year. He has been rewarded with a 3-year, $27 million contract extension, which will begin next year, the 2018 season. So he's now under contract for 4 more years with the Seattle Seahawks. That was the news yesterday. Thomas Rawls isn't going to play. Anyway, we'll get to all of that with Greg Bell now on 950 KJR. It's the Seahawks at 7.
Get out of your mind! Get out of your mind! Get out of your mind!
Tacoma News Tribune Seahawks insider Greg Bell. Good morning, Greg.
Good morning, Mitch.
What'd you think of the Justin Britt news yesterday? Caught by surprise? Expected it? And what did you think of the numbers?
Well, I wasn't surprised. I thought they were going to extend him, and usually teams like to do this before the season begins so they can just table that and not have the player having that over his head while he plays. The numbers, it was a preemptive strike, first of all. They did it so that he didn't play the season and then get tempted by the market, which in the NFL now, free agency for offensive linemen, specifically centers, is so out of whack. It is the Seahawks would not want to have paid what Justin Britt would have been looking at on the open market. But you say, whoa, $9 million average. Now, there's lots of ways to cut a contract these days in the NFL, but just in elementary terms, $9 million in average salary, $13+ million in the first year, and plus, I mean, signing bonus and guarantees right away. And that's the third highest paid, tied with Alex Mack of the Falcons, is the third highest paid average salary for a center in the league. And the highest one is just 10-point-some million. So he's now one of the highest paid centers in the league after playing just 1 year there, one season there. They just did not – it was preemptive in that they just did not want to lose their one stabilizing force that you mentioned, the one sure thing they think they have on the offensive line. They didn't even want him to be tempted by the money that was going to get thrown at him if he became a free agent next year. So they did it now, and this is the first player that John Schneider or Pete Carroll, first offensive lineman that they have drafted for the Seahawks that they have re-signed. And that tells you what they think of Justin Britt. It also tells you that they had no real plan B for someone who could start anywhere near the level that he has. It's out of nowhere, really. The guy was on his last chance this time last year.
Yep.
Third position in 3 years, and now look at him.
You used some interesting words there. You said, sure thing they think they have. Some might say that those two things kind of collide with one another. Sure thing that they think they have. After 1 year, is he a sure thing? Dick Fain was going through the Pro Football Focus grading of Justin Britt this past year. There were no elite performances. There were some good ones. There were some. I mean, is he a sure thing after 1 year, or is there a chance that we're all going to be looking back a year from now, or 6 months, as the case may be, from now, saying, "Geez, I wish they wouldn't have given Justin Britt all that money in all those years."
Well, when we talk about the Seahawks offensive line, it's all relative. And in a good performance, whatever the metrics are that they rate, a good performance on the Seattle line is a fantastic performance for the Seahawks, because this line was the worst in the league, the youngest in the league, and the cheapest in the league last year.
Right.
And there are really when they came into this training camp, the only spot they knew was set was Justin Britt, and they're now settling on the other guys. But 4 out of the 5 spots were up in the air, and they want to reward that. We got to have continuity somewhere, and they have to start in the middle, the guy who can make all the calls. The unintended consequence of having to move him from right tackle to left guard to center all in 3 seasons, of course, is that he knows all 3 positions, can play them all, can relate to the calls, to what they're seeing out there. He's got a wider breadth of experience now. But make no mistake, if he had not played well last year, he might be out of Seattle by now. And that's what's so remarkable, let's say, about Justin Britt's situation is that he was on his last chance here, and now a year later, he's the surest thing they have.
Okay, Greg Bell is with us, Seahawks Insider. The Seahawks at 7 every morning at this time. You can rest assured that you're going to hear from Greg and us and talking about the Seahawks news of the day. So with the Britt signing out of the way, the list of free agents to be, there's an interesting name there at the top, and his name is Jimmy Graham.
Yes, sir.
Now, Jimmy Graham is clearly still an offensive piece that they need around. They need any offensive piece they need around Russell Wilson. So, what do we think about his long-term viability here in Seattle? Would they look to extend him now? Would they play it out? Would they franchise him? How do you think they view the Jimmy Graham pending free agency at the end of the year, Greg?
I think at this moment they want to see a complete season of him, one, healthy, and two, them using him in the red zone like they traded for him 2 years ago. This will be the third season now. They want to see that. They have not gotten what they traded for yet. And therefore, I don't think an extension now makes a lot of sense because they'll be evaluating on what he should be, could be, or maybe even was with the Saints rather than what he is with the Seahawks. Mm-hmm. And also the fact he's about to turn 30 years old. I think at this moment, now that before he plays out the season, we'll see how it works in the offense. At this moment, I think the most likely scenario is a franchise tag for him. And that's going to be about a little around $9 million a year. He's making that average of $10 million a year in his $40 million contract that ends after this season. So the franchise tag is the top 5 salaries, and that's around $9 million a year for 1 year. And I think that makes more sense because that 1 year next year is also the year that Earl Thomas's contract ends and that Richard Sherman's contract ends. And in my mind, in their minds, I think they think those two guys are core guys, and Jimmy Graham is not. Financially, they would commit more and sooner to Earl Thomas and Richard Sherman than they would to tight end Jimmy Graham. Right. So the most likely scenario would be a franchise. I know that Jimmy Graham would not want that.
Yeah.
And nobody at 30 years old wants a franchise tag and live year to year. They want a multi-year big bonus, perhaps final big contract of his career. That would be hugely contentious if Seahawks tried to have him play under a franchise tag.
We should check this, and you should check this as well. We think that there is a clause in the franchise rule that states the guy doesn't get a pay decrease. I think he gets a bump no matter, even if a percentage, even if the average of the top 5 is less than what he's currently making.
That's true.
He would get more than the $10 million. I don't know how much more, but he would get more than the $10 million that he made this year. Right?
Thank you. You are right. Thank you. I think it's 20%. That's off the top of my head.
Okay.
So he would make 20% on top of $10 million.
Right.
Right. And again, it's not so much what the money would be for next year. It's how much they want to commit and can commit beyond 2018 when they have a few other big cash bills coming due.
Well, that'll be very interesting. Though that brings potential holdouts. That brings potential not reporting to training camps and mini camps and all kinds of good stuff. Of course, we all root as Seahawk fans, not you because you're an unbiased, objective reporter. We all root as Seahawk fans for us to have. This is a problem that we want to have. We don't want Graham coming off of either an injury-plagued 2017 or an unproductive 2017. All right, before you go, Seahawks at 7, Greg Bell, Seahawks Insider, gives us the news of the morning. Give us the other news and notes from out there at the VMAC yesterday. Who may play, who may not play tonight. Kind of set the scene for us for the Vikings and Seahawks in game number 2 tonight.
The first thing you're going to notice is Eddie Lacy being the lead back. Thomas Rawls has what Pete Carroll says is a minor sprained ankle that Rawls should be back from next week. He got that in the Chargers game last week. Mm-hmm. So Lacy's the lead back, and he's going to get more time and more run with the ones. Now, he gained only 10 yards on 4 carries last week, but he did run he was behind the starting offensive line. So people say, well, he played the second and third guys. Well, the starting offensive line for the Seahawks stayed in most of the first half. So they didn't block for him, and that's the first thing the Seahawks want to see. We talked about this earlier this week. The Seahawks averaged only 2.7 yards per carry with their running backs. If you take out the quarterback scrambles against the Chargers, that number has to be better. KJ Wright is supposed to come back Monday, Pete Carroll said, from his, quote, process on his knee that was not a surgery, which means Terrence Garvin is going to start at weak side linebacker. And when they've been in nickel this week, the usual time that the only two linebackers on the field are Bobby Wagner and KJ Wright, it's been Bobby Wagner and Terrence Garvin. The other thing I'm looking for, Mitch, tonight is how are they going to use Tremaine Brock? How much are they going to use him? And Brock needs to show something in the next 2 weeks. The second and third exhibition games are the big ones for the veterans and the starters. They play the most then. The fourth one's a throwaway. They almost never even dress. So the second and third games is where they make the evaluations on starters and who's going to be in what positions. Brock, I think, is going to be a nickelback. We've talked about this week. He's 5'10". He can be quicker and shiftier on inside. He has a little bit of experience earlier in his career with the 49ers. Does he go right into nickel at night? And if so, how much is he pushing Jeremy Lane? Is Lane going to start in base defense at right cornerback, or is Shaq Griffin going to do it again, the rookie third-round pick?
So Lane is playing tonight, right?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
He said that to me, and Carroll pretty much confirmed that as well.
Okay.
So eventually I think it's all going to shake out that the starting nickel is Jeremy Lane inside, and outside is Shaquille Griffin, and that's where they're going to be in two-thirds of the plays, maybe even more than that against Aaron Rodgers on September 10th. But now Tremaine Brock is here, and he's got only 2 preseason games to show what he could possibly do to fit. And if the Seahawks don't like what they see, that's a non-guaranteed veteran minimum contract that they can easily shed. So Brock's got some work to do here in the next two games.
Amara Darboh, yay or nay?
Yay for me. He just hasn't had the opportunities with the first team yet.
Does he play tonight? I guess is yay or nay? Are we going to see him?
Pete Carroll was non-committal on that. He hasn't practiced much at all this week. But he's a kid that needs to show something, and he hasn't had opportunities with the first team, so I'm not saying he wouldn't play, but I haven't seen him on the practice field much this week.
We're going to see a big dose of Kasen Williams tonight as it results based on the results of the last time around.
We may, although they also may say, well, we like what we saw already, and we need to give Tanner McAvoy and David Moore and other guys more chances to see what they have, because now we know what we have in Kasen Williams.
Okay, and we'll all watch the right side of the offensive line, right?
Yes, we will.
We'll watch Ibushi and Ifedi and Glowinski and Posick. Are those the 4 that are duking it out for 2 spots, or is there somebody else that I need to keep an eye on? Odiombo?
No, that's it.
That's it.
Odiombo's been on the left side. Jordan Roos has been on the left side. They were publicly very disappointed with Odiombo. Tom Cable said he was inconsistent. I didn't think he had a good rookie year last year. For a third-round pick, he's been disappointing so far. Posick's going to get time at right guard, it'll be the first game action at right guard. Mark Glowinski's going to start at right guard. Oday Ibushi started last week. I think they really like Ibushi, and I know they're giving Glowinski a good shot, and he's at his college position at right guard. If I had to handicap it right now, I think Ibushi might be slightly ahead of him, so tonight's a big night for Mark Glowinski.
Okay. Thank you very much, Greg. Great to visit with you. Enjoy the game tonight, and we'll be following you on Twitter all the way through the evening as the Seahawks take on the Vikings. Thanks so very much.
Yes,
Appreciate
sir.
it.
Thank you, Mitch.
There he is, the SU. You too. Greg Bell, the Tacoma News-Tribune, and the Seahawks Insider on 950 KJR. Let's get you in here. Who you most curious to see tonight in game number 2, either based on what you saw in game number 1 or what you didn't see in game number 1? Where are your eyes focused tonight over there at Century Link?
I think you tend to go to the biggest concern for me, or at least that's how I look at it. I think Jermaine Ifedi, they got some good edge rushers over there at Minnesota, and so I think for him, big night.
Who would be the guy that would replace? Would it be Posick?
Yeah.
I mean, if you decided not to go with Ifedi
yeah.
in the regular season opener in Green Bay, would it be Posick? And do you see enough in Posick that makes you want to make that change?
Yeah, I do.
You do at right tackle?
Yeah, that's more of a comment on Ifedi. I mean, I think Posick, as I mentioned to you earlier, I see some limitations to him athletically, but I think he can be solid. And right now, I don't see Ifedi as solid. I think Ifedi, I'm just perplexed. I've there's a lot there's a lot of former NFL players in this market that and I know them all. I'm friendly with all of them, and I think I'm not going to mention names, but it's pretty astonishing how there's a universal feeling of just apoplectic. Help me out. Just disillusionment. How about that?
Really?
Yeah. Just what are they seeing that we're not seeing? Yeah.
Well, how do you know they see anything in him?
Well,
just because they picked him doesn't mean they see anything in him.
Just the fact that he's
they're just giving him a shot.
Yeah, but he's getting reps. He's getting reps. They're putting him in front of their franchise quarterback. And by the way, on a quick fade route last week against two-town McAvoy, Russell, he almost got his knee blown out because of a big whiff by Germain Ifedi.
Okay, hold on. Let me play devil's advocate here. With all of your with all the former offensive linemen that are in town, or all former players that are in town, he's a first-round draft choice.
Yeah.
That's only a year ago. He's only played 1 year. He played at guard. And, yeah, they're giving him the reps, but it's not like we're 5 years into the Ifedi experiment, and there's other guys that are lined up to play the position. I feel like even if he's bad, he's only 1 year removed from being a number one draft choice that just about any team on the face of the earth would, at least 1 year into this, continue to have hopes and try a different position and give a guy reps that they picked in the first round. Or am I off base on that?
Yeah.
I mean, to have already to have already cut bait with him. You're saying what I'm hearing you say is people around.
First of all, I wouldn't have him at right tackle. How about that? To me,
where would you have
he's playing in too much space. I'd have him as a guard,
right where he played last year,
or left guard. I mean, I'd have him as a guard. I think he doesn't have the feet to play outside, so we can start right there. I would have never made the move right now based on what I see. But look, I might be wrong. I've never had any formal lessons on radio, but it seems to me like if I come to you here in August and I say, well, let's just wait to see. We'll have a big commentary on Germain Ifedi in December. It doesn't seem like that's going to get a lot of mileage to our discussion here, right? So we have to discuss what we see. I think it goes without saying that we've seen a limited enough amount from him that he could still improve. He could still do it. But the question you asked was, who am I most interested to see? Well, when you're talking about right tackle, which is, certainly above the median in terms of most important positions on the field. Every position's, all 22 starters are important. But I think a right tackle, particularly for a shorter quarterback,
right,
where he's getting pushed back to the quarterback's face, that's a big concern.
Understand, I'm not reacting to the idea that he's no good. He may very well be no good. I'm not sitting here saying that I know
very
better.
well someday be good.
I'm only reacting to what I thought your point was. What I felt from your words were, from other people and yourself, were why are they even still on the Germain Ifedi wagon? Why are they even still giving him reps anymore? That's what I was reacting to. And my question to you, as the other side of that, was, a year after being a first-round draft choice, no matter how bad the guy was, wouldn't all 32 teams still try the second season to give a first-round draft choice some reps to see if they can somehow get something to rehabilitate him? That's all.
Yeah,
you seem surprised that they're
No,
going down that road.
I'm surprised that they put him at right tackle.
Okay.
To me,
might say to them,
if you see a guy that you think is heavy-footed, now you can remember what my assessment of some of these guys were. You used to tease me about how I'd say Justin Britt, he's a good athlete, and when he was a lousy tackle,
I did, yeah.
And when he was a lousy guard, you'd wink. Oh, the good athlete, with in air quotes, Justin Britt, right?
Yeah.
And I just saw lighter feet. Posick has lighter feet because it's hard to have as heavy a feet as Germain Ifedi. And right now he's not finishing plays, and he's unaware of stunts and blitzes and what have you. There's just two or three really, really critical check marks in the bat, that have big X's.
Well, then he's not going to start opening day. He's going to lose his job.
No. Hey, look, as you point out, he's only been at this thing for a couple 3 weeks in training camp. So maybe he's going to have a steep incline curve. And so that's why I say I want to see him. Maybe somehow there's going to be a steep incline curve and he's going to come out and play well.
Well, as a Seahawk fan, I'm hopeful that somebody can perform over there at right tackle. And, maybe it's Ethan Posick, maybe it's not. Maybe it's Jermaine Ifedi, maybe it's not. Once you get by those two guys.
That's all they've really tried. I mean.
And who else is there?
Yeah, right now, nothing. So
it's one of those two guys.
And I think this, had we gone back to before the draft, when we considered, how the offensive line had played, you say, okay, are you going to use resources there? Ethan Posick was a pretty high draft pick. I think at that time I would have been disappointed if they couldn't find a starter with that high of a pick.
Me too.
And so the idea that Ethan Posick is going to be kind of a jack of all trades and, just kind of a utility infielder on that offensive line, that might be disappointing. Not to say that that's going to govern your decisions. Right now, one thing we can't change, Ethan Posick's on the team, and he looks good. He's fine. He's a young guy, and so maybe that is the best course with him. But I don't think it would have been a terribly blue sky vision for a Seahawks fan to think, if you're going to spend that high of a pick and you're drafting a position in that bad of an offensive line in their totality in 2016, there's only one guy who played well as a center.
And after the draft, you said the one guy that we sweated losing, the one guy that we really wanted, that we thought somebody might steal from under our nose, that we held our breaths on, was Ethan Posick. Those were the words of the general manager.
Yeah.
That, combined with all the things that you just mentioned, yells and screams starting offensive lineman the upcoming season.
Mm-hmm.
When you consider what you just said, bad offensive line, second-round pick, all the different extenuating circumstances, now toss in the fact that the general manager made all those claims about him. I'm with you. I find myself disappointed that he'll be standing on the sidelines waiting for somebody to get hurt because he can play all the different positions on the offensive line. I say, if you were that excited about a guy like that and you have this offensive line, that guy should be starting somewhere on the offensive line.
Well, Ifedi, to me, bears some resemblance to James Carpenter. And, James Carpenter was drafted as a tackle, and they dropped him inside real quick. And he struggled with Seattle, eventually came around. He actually played some good football for the Jets, but he didn't play good football as a tackle.
7:26, Daily Schnoz coming up. Hugh Millen is here. Chance to win 50-yard line seats for tonight's game against the Vikings, the preseason game. Also chance to win 50-yard line seats for the Cardinals-Seahawks game forthcoming as well. Hugh's got something to say at 8 o'clock on 950 KJR.
Tomorrow. Let's forget about tomorrow.
All right, we continue to take a look around the NFL, the training camps, get you also some fantasy info for those of you that like that this time of year. Let's go to Detroit. Dave Burkett of the Detroit Free Press is with us on the Detroit Lions and some of the storylines, Dave, that are surrounding this team as we enter preseason game week number 2 for most of these clubs. What are the things that people are talking about and writing about around the Lions?
Well, the big one seems to be Kenny Golladay, their rookie third-round pick, who's he scored 2 touchdowns in the first preseason game and has really been a nice little revelation for the Lions. I think some of it is the preseason and who he's going up against. I don't know that he's going to have as big of a role as some people would like to believe. Some people who maybe spent a higher draft pick on him in fantasy football than they otherwise would have. But, he's certainly been a nice storyline in camp. And then the other thing from the Lions standpoint is just some of the injuries that are mounting. They lost 2 defensive players who were going to be in the rotation this fall last week, and how they sort of fill the shoes of those guys.
Dave, who is Kenny Golladay? Tell everybody who he is, because I don't know that a lot of us out here in Seattle has ever heard his name before.
Yeah, rookie third-round pick out of Northern Illinois. Big body, 6'4", 215 pounds or so. He's primarily been running with the second-string offense right now with the Lions, and that's Golden Tate, Marvin Jones, and then T.J. Jones has been their slot receiver for most of all of camp really until the other day. Kenny Golladay, he had 2 touchdowns against the Colts in their first preseason game, was elevated to first string earlier this week. He sort of split time between first team and second team, and he's a big body. He's gonna be in red zone packages for the Lions. there's certainly some hope that in time he's going to develop into a really nice receiver. But again, for now, Golden Tate, Marvin Jones, Eric Ebron, Theo Riddick, there's a number of guys that are going to be ahead of him in the targets from Matthew Stafford.
Sounds like that Matthew Stafford's going to throw for nearly 5,000 yards, if not more, again this year. Dave?
Well, that's what they used to do here. They really do want to have a more balanced offense this year, and I think you've seen with Jim Caldwell as coach, Stafford he's been around that 4,200, 4,300 yard mark, and I think really that's what they'd like to do because they've been so bad running the football. They were 30th in the NFL last year, and Amir Abdullah missed a lot of time. Theo Riddick missed a lot of time. Those guys are healthy for now. They just feel that they need some more balance in offense to not only to help Stafford, but to help the defense that lacks playmakers too.
Where do they fit in the NFC North if you consider Green Bay the chalk and the favorite as they are every year? Are they an 8-win football team? Are they a 9-win football team? Could they compete for another wild card spot? What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they were in the wild card hunt at the end of the day. I mean, I think they're probably about an 8-win team. Again, just, with some of the injuries that they have, their starting left tackle, Taylor Decker, is going to miss at least half the season from a torn labrum he had this spring, and they lost one of their starting defensive ends, Kerry Hyder, last week. So, look, Hyder he's a rotational guy, but, when you start losing some of that depth, and Ziggy Ansah, their other starting defensive end, he's still on the PUP list. Those injuries seem to sort of compound. So I think the Lions, if things break right, if they win a lot of games like they did last year when they had, 7 comebacks, 8 come from behind victories, that is, they could be in that wild card hunt again. But I think it's the Packers. I think the Lions and Vikings are sort of, take your choice between those two teams, and then the Bears bring up the bottom of the division. And
so maybe you've already answered our one fantasy football league question about skill position players, maybe off the radar. Would you take Abdullah at some point in the draft? Would you wait and at the very, very end take Galladay? Are there any other names that we should know about for those people that want Lions on their teams?
Matt Prater, a kicker, in case they have trouble in the red zone again.
Okay.
No, look, truthfully, I think Abdullah he's going to get the bulk of the carries, right? But I think you don't want to take him too high because ultimately Zach Zenner is going to get some red zone work. Theo Riddick is going to catch 60 or 70 passes. So I think it depends on the setup of your league that Abdullah has some value. He should run for 850 or so yards, but I don't know that he's going to score a ton of touchdowns. He will catch 40 or so passes. He'll be a factor there, but you just have to make sure you have a better running back. He can't be your running back one if you're going into the season.
Okay. Dave Burkett in Detroit Free Press with all the information around the Lions training camp. Thanks very much. We appreciate Dave's time, 30 seconds away from another training camp visit and some more fantasy football league information for you on 950 KJR.
Seattle, are you looking for a good job with pay starting at $34 per hour plus benefits? If so, we have the jobs you're looking for. The Laborers Union is looking for skilled construction workers in the building, road and bridges, utility, and pipeline industries. Apply today for a job with great pay and great benefits for you and your family. Visit nwconstructionjobs.com or text JOBS to 41411 to learn more and apply today. That's northwestconstructionjobs.com or text JOBS to 41411. Message and data rates may apply.
We interrupt this broadcast to bring you this important bulletin from the United Press.
So there you go. Last pick of the draft. No one's going to take him in your league. Only you know about him. Last pick of the draft. Last round, last pick. Northern Illinois, 6'4", 220-pound, big target for Matthew Stafford, who's going to throw for a crap load of touchdowns and yards. Kenny Galladay. There's your diamond in the rough from the. You can thank the Mitch in the Morning radio program.
What happens
on your way to the promised
land? There's a slight problem.
What?
There's 7 of my 12 guys in the league that are listening right now. So that's.
Yeah, but none of them trust what we say on the show.
Okay.
Only you do.
Okay.
We're going live to Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Assumption.
David McCoy in Minneapolis, Minnesota, WCCO on the team that we're going to see tonight and the team that we've become familiar with over the years, the Minnesota Vikings. David, what are the storylines right now that everybody's writing about and talking about with regard to the Vikings?
Well, for the third year in a row, offensive line is the big training camp story. It was a pretty big mess 2 years ago and an even bigger mess last year. And it is already quite a bit of a question mark so far. They've held out Riley Reef for most of training camp. He got hurt the very first day of training camp, only recently made it back a couple days ago to take team drills, and they're still being very cautious with him. he's their starting left tackle. And then left guard Alex Boone missed the last 3 days of practice with an injury. So this is not exactly what Vikings fans wanted to see. The line last week in their first preseason game against the Buffalo Bills gave up 2 sacks and had a holding penalty. So this is a very good test tonight against Seattle, a very good defensive front, and they're going to have to show something, or there's going to be a lot of very nervous people in Minnesota.
How in the world does a team that's had all the problems that you just described on the offensive line not draft an offensive lineman until the 5th round, a kid out of Miami? And I think that they only drafted one offensive line. No, I'm sorry. They drafted a center. Is the center in the 3rd round any good? Is he going to start? What's his story?
He did have a pretty good preseason opener against Buffalo. Did have one bad snap, but the coaches said they were pretty impressed with him otherwise. He's either going to start at center or possibly at guard. They've kind of got a 3-way battle for 2 spots at the center and guard, the right guard positions right now between him and Joe Berger and Nick Easton, who was basically their starting center the last couple games of last season. So 2 of those guys are going to play 2 of those jobs out of those 3. So it may or may not be the rookie offline, but it's a great question why they don't draft a tackle. You got me on that one, because the guy that they have right now as their backup left tackle and right tackle is Rashad Hill, who was on Jacksonville's practice squad for most of last season. So they are extremely thin depth-wise at tackle. Apparently there wasn't a great bunch of options out there at tackle in the draft. That's what General Manager Rick Spielman has said. But when you're as thin as the Vikings are, and I asked Mike Zimmer a couple weeks ago in training camp, point blank, I said, how do you feel about your tackle depth? And he kind of smiled and grinned and said, well, I think we need to stay healthy, which kind of says it all. So, it's a big question mark.
All right, before you go, give us some fantasy football league information. Start with the running backs, Latavius Murray and Dalvin Cook, the talented rookie. Who's going to get the carries? Would you draft either one of those guys? And what about the Vikings defense? The Vikings defense should be pretty high on most people's boards.
Yeah, if there's one fantasy unit or pick to make, it would be the Vikings defense. They should be pretty good again. They were pretty good last year, and I think they largely ran out of gas kind of at the end of last season because they were trying to win games on their own. The offense was struggling as much as they were. As far as the running back situation goes, I'm actually really curious to see if Latavius Murray plays tonight, because they have been holding him out of just about everything and very cautious with him after he works his way back from off-season ankle surgery, which has taken longer, I think, than they anticipated for him to recover from. So Dalvin Cook has been the darling of training camp. Coaches are raving about Dalvin Cook. So I would not hesitate to take Dalvin Cook. You might see some value at this point with Latavius Murray, who I think is still a really good fit for their offense and a really good player. I think the idea going in is those guys would play roles with split carries, but with Murray being injured and Cook being as good as he has, he's kind of taking the edge there. So,
will Cook be a 1,000-yard rusher this year?
Good question. Maybe I'll put him for 900.
900 yards, 6 or 7 touchdowns.
A lot of catches too, though. A lot of catches. So if you're in a PPR league, I would give him the nod.
Okay. Thanks very much. David McCoy, Minneapolis,
Anytime.
WCCO television on the Vikings. There you go. 2 more training camps featured on the Daily Schnoz on 950 KJR.
Well, that's the news. I'm out of here.
The Daily Schnoz, brought to you by Michael's Toyota of Bellevue on Sports Radio 950 KJR.
900 yards, he says, and a lot of catches. Dalvin Cook, the darling of the Vikings preseason camp.
It's good enough for me to take him in my dynasty draft with the 4th overall pick.
Wow, that high.
Well, it's dynasty. It's all rookies. It's only rookies.
744 on 950 KJR. Dear show, ... The Heritage Distilling text line at 49451. Heritage Distilling text line 49451. Dear show, ... You can ask us or say anything that you like. Anything is fair game. If you're looking for something to text in, we want to know who you're curious about tonight. Preseason game number 2. Who you're curious to watch. Single out a couple of guys on the Seattle Seahawks. We'll do the same, and we'll give away some tickets, too, on 950 KJ. It was a long one.
Oh, it's a blue flag.
Letters. Oh, we get letters. It's a Blue Friday.
Mini Blue Friday.
I thought you said every Friday was Blue Friday. It's like when the Seahawks play.
It's true. It's a mini Blue Friday.
Oh. Where are we on Monday?
You're at the VMAC.
At the VMAC on Monday?
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at the VMAC.
At the
training
VMAC.
camp's over, right?
Is it? Did they have the barbecue?
I think training camp's over.
The family barbecue?
Now it's just preparation for
I think
the
they
season.
fed Sierra.
What do they call this
Sierra.
now?
When they feed Sierra, the training camp's over.
Well, Sierra can eat whatever she damn well wants.
Yeah, they feed the families.
They have to do the family
They
barbecue.
do the family
rabbit
barbecue.
camp.
As soon as they feed Sierra, the training camp is over.
But
that's how you know.
For our purposes, everything is still locked, loaded, and all
right. Dear Hugh, dear show, ... Read the text. Let's get some reaction. The texting poll, the Heritage Distilling text line. Who might you be curious to see play tonight in preseason game number 2? Go ahead, Slickhawk.
Go ahead,
Oh, me. Dear show, curious to see how Procise and Carson does.
That'd be due.
Whatever. Still recall the huge game CJ has at New England. Is there any running back on the team that can execute the flea flicker?
Flea flicker?
We want to see flea flickers tonight.
That was a random text with poor grammar.
Yep.
Moving on.
Yes. Surprised you picked it.
Dear show, Kason Williams, can he do it again? Be consistent, or was he just matched up on a second, third string DB that was no good?
I'd like to see Kason Williams catch the ball inside also, not just on the sideline.
Well, at his size, he ought to be able to go inside. I can recall doing, maybe I did it with you, Dick, a state final in the Tacoma Dome when Kason was a freshman, and on a third down pivotal, like 3rd and 14, he was a freshman. He went in there and got like 18 yards on a 3rd and 14, got whacked by the safety, and it's one of the most impressive plays you could ever possibly see by a freshman. He's been tough. We've seen him at the Huskies. He's been tough since he was a freshman in high school. So now the question is, can he get the separation and and the likes? But toughness and catching inside is not the problem.
I heard that Kason Williams has one more game of high school eligibility left, and he's going to play it on September the 1st.
From outside?
Oh, God. No, he's Skyline. He's a Skyline.
No, I mean, one more. I thought maybe they outside would pick him up for a game.
No. He's going to play one more game for Skyline. He's got one more game of eligibility, and he's going to play it on September 1st against whoever they're playing September 1st.
Oh. I don't know. Who would they be playing?
I see. That's no good for Hugh then.
Go ahead.
Show. Looking forward to seeing Shaq, Lacey, and how Lockett comes back from his injury.
Dear show,
is Lockett playing tonight?
Nah.
I don't
Lockett
think
and
Lockett's
Richardson
playing,
are very questionable.
Oh, Richardson's not playing.
Dear show,
Come on now.
Lacey, and see if any defensive lineman can get push, unlike last week. Was there a lot of problems with the push last week?
Well, they only had,
I mean, there wasn't great pressure. There's no question about that. But I mean, I'm just talking.
we're talking about defensive line.
Defensive line.
I thought we were
push.
talking about offensive linemen.
Did they not move the line?
Not the starters.
Okay.
Well, the starters, were out there for like half a fleeting moment, and they didn't do very
well.
They
had a couple pressures, but it was generally more on stunts and blitzes. And early in the preseason, you wonder, is that just a gotcha?
I'm not sure I like this question.
Yes.
Dear show, Mitch, who is the Dom DeLuise of the morning show and why?
Go on, move on. Hugh's got something to say here coming up shortly. Come on, move on.
Dear show, I want to see what Eddie Lacy can do because he looked like crap last week. I also want to see Jeremy Lane because I don't think he's got it either.
Hold on.
I didn't think
did
that.
Eddie Lacy look like crap last week?
No, not
look like crap last
Well,
week?
this is what the texter said.
Was he like 4 rushes,
says,
10 yards?
That's a pretty...
Down in the red zone, he put his head down and moved the pile a little bit.
Hugh's our guy. Did he look like crap last week?
I don't know about crap. I wouldn't say he distinguished himself. He just looked okay.
Okay.
I can certainly understand the desire to see more from him.
Oh, me too, because I'm one of them. I'm one of those guys. But crap, I don't know that I would term him as crap last week.
Yeah. Dear show, I'm curious to see Tremaine Brock.
Oh. What number is he going to wear? Anybody know?
I haven't seen.
5.
He's got to change.
Well, he can't wear 5. Well, I guess eventually.
He's not going to wear number 5.
He might be able to in the preseason. I don't know.
Yeah, he probably can during the preseason.
All right, Tremaine Brock is one of them.
So maybe
Hugh's got something to say at 8 o'clock, plus your chance to win 50-yard line seats to see the Seahawks and the Cardinals plus 50-yard line seats for tonight's game. Going to be given away at 8:28. You don't want to miss that on 950 KJR. Hughes warming up. He's got something to say. He's got something on his mind. None of us know exactly where he's going, but we'll get there in a minute. Seahawks, Vikings tonight. Raise your hand if you're going.
That's 0 for 4.
I was expecting Hugh to raise his hand.
That's 0 for 4.
0 for 4.
Coaching.
I got Kelsey Plum to watch tonight.
What?
Kelsey Plum in town, your girl.
Mrs. Slickhop.
And she's starting to play ball, too, despite Mitch's thrashing of her last
If
month.
you call 13 points and 7 assists,
What's wrong
playing
with
ball.
that?
It's okay.
Kelsey's
What's
here.
wrong with that? 13 and 7?
It's nice. It's nice.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
Nothing
nice.
more than nice. Though.
Nice.
It's
I'm
not
missing
number 1
Kelsey.
overall pick nice.
Well, for
but
a
it's
rookie,
nice.
it is.
I'm missing Kelsey.
You can come. You want me to get you a ticket?
I can't.
Why?
I'm going home.
Vikings Seahawks tonight. No Thomas Rawls. You'll see some Eddie Lacy tonight. You'll see some Russell Wilson tonight. You'll see some Tremaine Brock tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Much to the chagrin of many. Justin Britt, when you see him tonight, you can remember that he just got a 3-year, $27 million extension. So your center is now all locked up and ready to go for the next 4 years. This year and 3 more, if you want them for that long. Mariners begin a 12-game pivotal. Can we call them pivotal?
I think every trip now is pivotal.
Well, look at it this way. A third of the season, of the remainder of the season, a third of the remainder of the season is this road trip.
What do you sign up for? 7? 7 and 5?
With this starting rotation? Yes.
That's enough for 5.
Would you sign up
for
6 and 6?
Stop trying to weasel on me.
I'm just asking.
No,
I'm trying to find your bar.
Don't push me.
How
Don't
low?
push me.
How low can you go?
6 and 6 will keep them in it. We know that.
Of course.
It won't win anything, though.
I don't think I sign up for anything less than that, though. I'm not signed up for 5.
No, we got Erasmo Ramirez. Anyway, anywho.
He's our ace, by the way.
Anywho, yes, 12 games in 13 days on the road, 40 games left to play this baseball season. Another subplot to tonight's game, by the way, is who will kneel, who will join Michael Bennett if Michael Bennett continues to kneel during the national anthem. Will more Seahawks players, white and black, will they support Michael Bennett and his protest kneeling during the national anthem? Well, all the eyes will be on who are the Seahawks is going to kneel tonight.
Maybe Doug Baldwin. He's intimated as such.
Okay.
By
so
the way,
we'll
you mentioned Rawls. Sorry to redirect. But
Thomas Rawls, yes.
Yeah. What's the deal with him?
He's got an ankle injury. He has not practiced the last 2 days.
He's got a boo-boo.
Is it the ankle?
Yeah. It's the
same?
I don't know if it's the ankle.
Know.
I don't know if it's the ankle. He suffered an ankle injury. He has not practiced the last couple of days. He will not play tonight. I'm assuming that a guy like Amara Darboh will be out there. I'm assuming that a guy like Paul Richardson will not be out there. We'll kind of have to wait and see on who we see and for how long tonight in the Vikings-Seahawks game. What else? Oh, I know what else. What else is, you know when a kicker is having a good training camp?
You want to know when the kicker's kicking really good? When he's banging
kicks.
the cameraman at training camp.
You've got something to say.
Yesterday, in case you missed the last episode of this soap opera, Hugh was fired up about people's reactions to Tremaine Brock.
Yep.
Fired up. Mm-hmm. Just a couple of short days ago, it was Suda the Elephant. So,
Suda the painting elephant.
I hear that Suda's got a brother.
Yeah.
Pseudo?
Yeah, well, I'm sure.
None of us know exactly where Hugh's going to go
Yeah.
with his thoughts today, and so we're wondering, what is it as you're driving westbound on 90 today and Getting your Slick Hawk special at Tully's.
I haven't got there yet.
The intense chocolate mocha.
No.
Okay, not yet.
No.
Yeah, what's on your mind
beat
today?
the traffic well enough
what
on
are
that.
you thinking about
today? This was y'all's idea, but you put it on me, so I will tell you what's on my mind today. I don't need to reinvent wheels, and I don't need to manufacture anything. I think just the Justin Britt signing, and just let's just talk about the centers and the center position and kind of where Seattle is and where it fits. A couple points worth mentioning. As far as the center payroll in the NFL, Mitch, Brandon Linder of the Jaguars of all teams, highest paid on average. Now, as we know, you mentioned there a moment ago, Britt signed a 3-year extension, so he's going to be averaging $9 million. The highest average is $10.34 million, as I said, with Linder. Now, Travis Frederick, who many pretty ardent football fans I would expect have heard of him, the Cowboys center, recently signed. He's at 9.4. So Alex Mack, people say you can't get great players in free agency. Alex Mack proved that theory dead wrong after having coming over from Cleveland, made an immense impact on the Falcons last year. He's at exactly $9 million. So by 2017 salaries, Britt's contract would equate to the equal of the number 3 salary. And then I'll mention 2 more. Mike Pouncey, your boy, with Miami at 8.95. Rodney Hudson with the Raiders at 8.9. So you kind of get a picture of where they
Apples and
are.
oranges a little bit, because we're not starting the 3-year contract extension and the $9 million until next year, in which salaries are going to go up.
That's understood.
Okay.
And the salary cap has been going up $10-12 million pretty consistently for the last few years. So I think this is a a little bit of a safe move, I think, for both parties, right? I don't think either side really wanted to gamble. The Seahawks didn't really want to let this play out and have him have another great year, and then the money's driven up, and then
another great year. So you would term his year last year as a great year.
Well, okay, I think that's a point. Well, if you want to,
I'm asking. I'm not challenging. I'm asking.
No, I think if you check me on that, I think that's good. I'd say, I think we tossed around the word "great" too much. I think Alex Mack had a great year, but I would just stop short of saying. But another really good year.
Really good year.
Okay, so and then let's kind of talk about where the Seahawks are financially, and you did a nice job of starting in on that. But in 2018, next year. Now, this is in order of the salaries of the Seahawks now. So if we're trying to get a picture for who's on the last year of their contract, Jimmy Graham is the most expensive Seahawk whose contract expires. He at $10 million. Then Luke Joeckel. Now, these are all unrestricted free agents as of this coming off season. Okay, then Luke Joeckel, he's at 7.25. Then Eddie Lacy at 3.56. Then Bradley McDougald at $2 million. Luke Wilson at 1.8. Michael Wilhoit at 1.5, and Paul Richardson at 1.5.
These
so that's
are the
just
upcoming free
now,
agents based on their salaries this year.
And looking at that, I think just parenthetically, a quick note, you could see how this iteration, this nucleus of the Seahawks, really you get the sense has 2 more years in it, 17 and 18, because when you start to look at who's going to be a free agent the following year, you got Richard Sherman, you got Earl Thomas, you got KJ Wright, Cliff Averill.
Wow.
I'll throw Jermaine Kearse in there. That was in order of I'm not sure I want to attach the same significance to him as
you just did.
But
welcome,
that was
Jermaine.
In order.
Welcome
that was
to
in
the club,
order.
Jermaine.
That was in order of the money being paid to them.
Yeah.
And so they're going to have a lot of guys come do very core nucleus plays.
Unless they deal with those a year out.
Absolutely.
Like next season at this time, next preseason at this time, they could be announcing contracts with Earl Thomas and Richard Sherman and all that, just as they did with Justin Britt yesterday.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, absolutely. But I'm just saying, as the books look now, and I think we can commend the Seahawks for having this. They got this chart and this model and their salary structure, and their 3-4 year salary structure with all this, and I think they've done a nice job of that. So, but these guys where they had an epic period of drafting. And I really believe you can put 2010 through 2012, Seattle Seahawks, 3 straight years, 17 starters, 8 Pro Bowl players. I think you can put that, and possibly a couple of Hall of Famers there. As many as maybe 3 Hall of Famers. I mean, it wouldn't shock me if Earl's a Hall of Famer. It wouldn't shock me if Richard Sherman's a Hall of Famer. It wouldn't shock me if Russell Wilson's a Hall of Famer. And, Cam, it's probably an outside possible, but, more startling things.
An epic 3-year period of draft.
I wouldn't back off on that adjective.
Okay.
I think you checked me correctly and aptly on the great, but I think that was a great epic stretch there. So those guys, we're going to kind of see their careers, and we're not even talking about the KJ Wright, and then some of the free agent acquisitions. I mean, the acquisition of Michael Bennett and Cliff Averill. I mean, this is a club that has done some real.
So what's on your mind today?
Well,
what is it exactly that's on your mind today?
Well, I would just say the center signing, Mitch. If you're saying, okay, is there a thesis to it? I would just say it's me trying to wrap my arms about the state of the club in terms of the desire for the Seahawks to sign him.
Mm-hmm.
What's good for the Seahawks in that way? What's good for Justin Britt? How does it compare to other centers in the league? How does it sit in the Seahawks structure? I think there's a lot of things to contemplate if you're a Seahawks fan about the Justin Britt signing.
And so does the fact that he's got crap around him and has had crap around him inflate his value to the Seahawks? The fact that he's the Seahawks' best offensive lineman, apparently, at least for now, by a landslide.
Yes.
Does that make the dollars go up in terms of what the Seahawks should pay him versus maybe what another NFL team would pay him at this stage of his
I think
career?
so. I think so. I think they've been reminded by many of us that they are the lowest ranked offensive line in terms of salaries in the NFL. Not that you would just say, all right, well, let's just go throw money. And, you carry that logic out, you'd be, Obiambo. You'd be throwing money at him. But but I think there's a urgency to prevent the loss of good players on that offensive line. So absolutely, I think that's critical. Now, I think in just an observation about the center position, in pass blocking, often, and you can say this is general. Now, certainly there's exceptions because of different fronts, 30 front, bare fronts, and what have you, but more often than not, and particularly on third down in the NFL, even teams that play a 30 front, meaning a 3-4, where there's a nose tackle sitting right over the center, even teams that do that on first and second down, they almost always go into a 4-man front on third down. And so the center, based on the protection scheme, in most situations, he's just kind of double teaming with one of the guards. So I think that of the 5 offensive linemen in pass blocking, I could make a pretty strong argument that the center has the easiest job in pass blocking. Not to say that being a lineman in the NFL is easy.
So let me understand this and maybe speak on behalf of our listeners. If there's a 3-man front against an offensive line, the middle guy of the 3 guys is nose up on the center most likely, and then there's hand-to-hand, man-to-man combat between your center and that nose tackle. That's the true definition of a nose tackle.
Yeah, just
3-4. Now you go to 4-3, and the 2 inside guys line up more against the guards than they do a guy in the middle against the nose tackle. If you got 4 fingers, so the center in that case is snapping the ball with nobody right in front of him.
Correct.
And he's now joining a guard on either direction to double team one of those interior 4-3 guys instead of man-to-man combat.
People
right?
would tend to say, yes, absolutely.
Okay. And so that's why you've concluded that maybe in today's football, the center has the easiest of possibilities because he doesn't have to handle a guy man up,
in pass blocking
in space.
I'm going to get to run blocking in a second.
Okay.
But in pass blocking, yes, football people might say, hey, less likely to be a 4-3 in these third down situations. They would call it a 4-2 or a 4-1.
Whatever. 4-man front is what I'm talking about.
But a 4-man front, yes. Now, one quick note on that is in first down, teams that that run a 4-man front on first down, they're going to have what's called a one technique, a guy in the gap between the center and the guard. On third down, and particularly longer, medium to longer yardage, you're more likely to see the defensive tackles on the outside shades of the guards. So the center, literally, he doesn't have anything. Now, he has blitz responsibility depending on the protection and what have you. So I'm not going to say that it's always easy, but I would say you could generalize that centers oftentimes they're just going to go and they're going to slide and help double teams, so that they always have help.
Running game now.
Let me back off on always. They often have help.
Usually.
Now, running game, I can make an argument that the center has the most difficult job. First of all, they're never terribly far from the ball, right? They're never more than a couple of gaps out. And even on stretch plays, they often have to reach far. Everybody's stepping a little bit further on an outside zone play than they are on an inside zone. Their steps are wider. So that nose tackle, and I use the word nose tackle, understanding that there's various permutations of that word. You got 3-4 nose tackle, who is what we call a zero technique.
Right on the nose, head to head.
Nose to nose.
Yep.
The one technique is where you're shaded.
Yeah.
And in the NFL, and I can just tell you as, coaching youth football all those years, now I'm in my 10th year, I was our offensive line coach. And when you just talk about basic anatomy, physiology, leverage, understanding of physics, I would never ask a lineman to reach a center to reach a guy in his gap. Let's say we're going to run off left tackle. If there was a guy on the center's outside shade, I would never to the left side, to the play side, I would never ask that center to try and reach, because if the guy's going to just beat him. He's got leverage, he's got physics, he's got all kinds of things, and yet you watch the way NFL centers are asked to block. They are asked to reach that guy. Down after down after down, and again, they're not far from the point of attack. If you're the left tackle, which is a lot of people's estimation the most difficult position to play, obviously in the pass blocking, if you're going off to the right side, your job is relatively easy. The center never has any time off because he's always close to the ball and the point of attack.
No running plays off for the center,
and he has to reach those one techniques, the Jerron Reeds of those defensive, the Linval we're going to get, Linval Joseph?
Yeah.
Those just from a leverage standpoint are tough blocks. So you get a guy who can make those blocks, and then
Can he make
and
them?
then there's some other things, yeah.
He can make them.
And then there's the other part
Second layer.
and then in the running game, when you're going against a 40, if you're climbing and trying to get what I call the big sombrero, you're trying to get a stud middle linebacker, he's a better athlete than you in space every single time. You put him through any kind of obstacle course. Remember the ABC Superstars? You put a center and a middle, I don't care who it is.
Frazier's drowning.
Yeah. Get him out of the pool. I don't care who you are. Pouncey's a great athlete, and Khalil, not Khalil Mack, but the two guys that
Bobby
are brothers.
Wagner,
the guy down at Carolina.
Bobby Wagner.
No, I'm talking about centers right now.
Oh, centers. Okay.
No. There's some really good athletes out there at the center position, but they're never as good as
you haven't
a linebacker.
mentioned when
So you got to go to the second level.
When evaluating the center position, you have not mentioned the role and responsibility of being the quarterback of the offense.
Yeah,
that's part of it too,
Yeah.
right? There's a mental challenge to the position of center that does not exist.
Yeah,
amongst the other offensive linemen.
You're doing the calls. By the
calls.
way, Ryan Khalil was the guy I was mentioning. I've always admired him, the center for the Panthers. But so those guys are good athletes, but they're not as good as the middle linebackers. But yes, the quarterback of the offensive line. Yeah, no, I almost goes without saying, but yeah, it absolutely should be emphasized. There's a mental piece to that and how you're communicating, and things just kind of go quicker when you have a smart guy. He's a smart guy.
So what Hugh's got to say today is a lot about the offensive line, a lot about the center position and the contract that the Seahawks gave Britt and the contract that Britt got from the Seahawks. Let's finish it in the final 60 seconds with this question that I think all Seahawks fans if they're not asking, they should be asking. When John Schneider gives a contract of this nature to Justin Britt, there is some speculation involved. There's always some speculation involved. What is he going to be like this year? What is he going to be like next year? Should I pay him like a premier center after 1 year?
Yeah.
So my question to you, which Seahawks fans should be interested in the answer is, based on your first ever one season at center in the National Football League that resulted in a Pro Bowl alternate position, is that enough? Is that sample size enough to be able to correctly speculate that he's just going to be either that good or better moving forward? Or is there a chance that he plays the center position this year and in future years the way he played the guard and tackle positions, in which case you're sitting there saying, oh, boy, why did we give him that contract? How much value is the sample set of 16 or 17 or 18 games large enough? Have you seen enough, Hugh, to say Justin Britt is going to be a near Pro Bowl player the next 3 years?
No, I think they did it exactly right. I think because I don't know, you see a guy with a great frame, really good feet. He's healthy. Just the nuances, what I've described about how it's difficult to play the run game, easier to play the pass game. I think those aspects, just kind of how he sees things.
You've seen enough.
Well, obviously, am I blind to the notion that he could regress to the mean?
Yeah.
I mean, the argument, what I think you're suggesting is he's played 3 years and he's been very poor in two of them.
Yeah.
They were different positions. But that's why I started the conversation with a little bit of a gamble on gamble implies that you're hit. That there's a safety part of this that the Seahawks are saying, hey, we're hedging ourselves against him having a great season.
Okay. All right. Chance to win 50-yard line seats to the 16th game of the regular season against the Cardinals and Seahawks is next. All you got to do is call the show at 206-286-9595 or the number that nobody remembers, 1-800-829-0950, and tell us who are you most curious to see play for the Seahawks tonight. Preseason game number 2. We'll all answer that question. And just to add some sugar to the pot.
Sugar.
50-yard line seats to tonight's game for one of the callers that gets through today.
All
right? 50-yard line seats to tonight's Vikings-Seahawks game for one of the callers that calls in our next segment and answers the question, who are you most curious to watch play for the Seahawks and why tonight? We're already on August 15th, August 18th.
Yeah?
Why would you run something like that?
What? Previewing the NFL season?
Play it again and see if you're going to play. This is
we're about to start all over.
They have to find another running back, in my opinion.
12th man training camp begins July 30th.
Look at the difference that has made with the Dallas Cowboys.
On your one and only home for the 12th man in the NFL.
There we go. All right.
Seattle's Sports Radio 950.
You don't understand
KJR.
why I would ask that question?
Now back to Mitch in the morning.
You truly are going to sit there and play dumb and say, why are you asking that question when it's August 18th and we're running a promo that the training camp's going to bring in? I'm not saying it's not.
Let's just cut out that you cut out like 2 seconds and you're all good.
Do you not understand why I would bring this up for conversation?
Not why you'd bring it up for conversation, no.
Do you understand why I would ask?
I understand what you're saying. I don't understand why you bring it up for conversation.
What does that mean?
Well, maybe he means why would you bring it up on the air?
No, I'm just saying why is it,
I just don't think we should run something that announces that we're going to begin something on July 31st when it's August 18th. That's all.
Well, that's when our coverage began. But we're still in the coverage.
Yeah, but it says it begins, not began.
I don't know. That's when our coverage began. And we're still in the coverage. It's still before the season. We're still going out to training.
Hugh, do you think that was an outdated promo? Did you hear the promo?
No.
Play the promo again. Slickhawk is
we're about to start all over.
They have to find another running back, in my opinion.
12th man training camp begins July 30th.
Look at the difference that has made with the Dallas Cowboys.
On your one and only home for the 12th man in the NFL.
There we go. All right.
Seattle's Sports Radio 950, KJR.
Would you call
now
that,
back to Mitch in the morning.
Would you call that an out-of-place promo on August the 18th? We're about to begin on
There's
July 31st.
no way Slickhawk has any legs to stand on in this argument.
There's a sign right here.
The one that says about to begin.
Highlighted. And what, Dick, can you read that for me?
Well,
doesn't matter what it says.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter what it says.
The president of the United States could say, I'm insisting you all go to jail if you don't play that. I'm just bringing up the question whether it's a good idea to be playing a promo that says training camp's about to begin on July 31st
It's about to
on
begin.
August the 8th.
It didn't say. It said training camp begins July whatever.
It said about to begin. It's about to happen again. It's about to begin
The
again.
season's about to happen. We're starting everything over.
Is he really arguing with me on this?
Did you say begins?
Let's play it again.
Play it again.
You're about to start all over.
We're about to start all over.
Find another running back, in my opinion.
12th man training camp begins July 30th.
Look at the difference that has made with the Dallas Cowboys.
On your one and only home for the 12th man in the NFL.
There we go. All right.
Seattle's Sports Radio 950, KJR. Now back to Mitch in the morning.
Look, handle it how you want, but my suggestion to you to have credibility in future arguments is to just relinquish this one.
Yeah.
Just throw in the towel and say, you know
Hey,
what?
sometimes you're going to lose, you know?
If
Sometimes you're going to lose arguments.
What would? Let me ask you that: if that wasn't outdated,
Look at his face.
What?
He's pulling the.
What
this is
would?
slick
What?
on. All right. He's pulling the slick on.
What would you have to hear before it would be defined as outdated?
You could say
I'm
to
not even
Slick
saying
Hawk,
it's
2
not
plus
outdated.
2 is 4. And you go.
I'm not even saying it's not outdated. I'm saying there's nothing wrong with still using it because everything's still accurate.
I disagree with that. I think we sound like clowns.
There
saying
you
that.
go.
You know, if you
there
take.
you go.
Well,
Hugh's
then why
got
have you
something
had-
to say.
then why haven't any of you had anything to say this entire last 3 weeks?
Because I didn't notice it.
You know, Mitch, if you
I
if
didn't
you
notice
play,
it
if you
before.
play the same lottery numbers every week.
Guy is a real gem.
If you are given the fact that that certain set of numbers will hit in your lifetime.
Stop it.
If you are given the fact that those certain set of numbers will hit in your lifetime. If an alien came down from outer space, Hugh likes aliens. If an alien came down from outer space and said, I have the knowledge that sometime in your life, your adult life, these numbers will hit.
Well, yeah, then you play
At
the same
some point.
numbers, but we don't have
If you
that.
play the same numbers
We
every
don't
time,
have that.
you are more likely to win than if you don't.
Why would an alien know?
Aliens know lots of stuff.
You could have gone good Lord. You could have gone. You went with alien having the knowledge.
They have the technology.
They do.
They can look ahead.
Okay. Who are you, Hugh?
I think
most
sometimes you just say, I rest and sit down.
It's ridiculous.
Come on, Slick.
God.
Can't argue
something-
that
Come on,
one.
Slick. You're better than
You're
this.
promoting
Let's go.
something that begins on July 31st on August the 18th.
We sound like morons. That's what I think.
And we're good at that.
Yeah.
We're very good at that. Hugh, who are you most curious?
Curious. Well, I told you Jermaine Ifedi, but I'm going to go off the beaten track on the other one. I started mentioning him a couple weeks ago. This McKissick kid, number 14. You know, I was standing with Brock, and we were just kind of talking ball.
Who?
And Brock, Heward, who does the commentary on the Q13 game.
Did he ever play?
He played some ball. Yeah,
Okay.
he played some ball.
Okay.
I like Brock. I'm not gonna. Don't come on now. But you know, I said to him, we were just talking ball, and I said, you know,
Does he like
in
Peyton Manning
another
at all?
universe, that guy McKissick is gonna have somebody believe in him, and he's gonna actually have a.
You said it to me too. I was
6
standing
or
right
8
there.
year career.
Yeah.
In the NFL, and I mean, as a wide receiver, I think, you know, just looking at him, yes, he's short, but he's stocky, he's quick. I think he's really quick in and out of his breaks. I mean, I've been studying this, I feel like, most of my life. You know, I'm coaching it now. I think he's got,
crisp.
Crisp.
He's
he
no
has
Dorial
soft
Green
hands.
Beckham.
He has soft hands. No, look, am I saying the guy's a starting level player? No, but I think if somebody had believed in him, there's another path his course could have taken. Put it this way. I just watched Kurt Warner. Let me use an extreme example. I watched Kurt Warner with a yellow jacket give a speech, and his career obviously was dancing on the blade of a knife for a long time. Many, many, many blades of knives along the line. I think you look how many free agents, undrafted free agents, are in the Hall of Fame. The answer is dozens upon dozens of dozens. And how many guys are Pro Bowl players? And how the Seahawks have more undrafted free agents on their roster than any team in the NFL. So it happens. Some people just miss. And I think this McKissick kid, I love how he returns
What
punts.
number is he?
14.
14.
I love how he returns. There's an aggression that he has when he has the ball, a no hesitation.
Okay.
Just put your hammer down and go. And I think he can play wide receiver in the NFL. Do I think he's a starter? No. He's possibly a starter. He's a poor man Steve Smith in my mind. Now, how poor is, how many are all the pockets just, are we dangling, are pennies just coming out of the, I don't know.
Yeah.
I got to see him more.
Okay.
But I do believe
C.J. McKissick.
If there's
is
20,
your man to watch. Is
Yeah,
the
all
guy
these-
you're most curious to see is C.J. McKissick.
well,
that's okay. It's good. I like it.
I'm going to be right.
I like it.
I'm going to be right down Broadway when I tell you that I'm looking at Jermaine Ifedi.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
But I'm assuming you're probably thinking, hey, is there anybody off the beaten track?
I like it.
McKissick.
I like it.
Number 14.
I only
wanna
have
see
one
if-
follow-up question.
Receiver.
I only have one
Yeah.
follow-up question, then I'm going to Slickhawk. When does C.J. McKissick open up training camp?
CJ. I don't think it's.
Is it C.J.? What's his
No,
name?
it's a
O.J.
TJ. It's a-
J.D.?
it's-
J.D.
JD
McKissick.
Yeah.
When does J.D.
I suppose if I'm going to be
You should
beating
know who
his
it is.
drum,
When does McKissick?
Miss McKissick, 14.
Oh, when does he open training camp? What date?
Well, it's coming up on
It's
July
about-
30th.
It's about to begin.
Yeah. In a few
okay.
days on July 30th,
Okay.
we'll get our first look at McKissick.
Okay, McKissick. Sorry, McKissick, number 14.
I think the guy can play wide receiver.
I hear you.
And I think I wouldn't want to bet a ton of money he's not going to make the club, Mitch. He could be the last guy on the roster as a jack of all trades.
I got to tell you.
This guy is a utility knife.
I got to tell you, and this is not just me blowing smoke up Hugh Millen's ass. I got to tell you. He has said this to me 2-3 times, even though he talks about Brock. He's really talking to me. He said it to me a couple times, and I've watched him. And he looks like he gets shot out of a cannon. There is a very impressive in practice. Now, I watched in San Diego or L.A. get a couple of things, and I just in practice he really looks the part. There's an explosiveness to him that you don't see out there very often with any of the guys for the Seattle Seahawks. There's an explosiveness.
And he's been a running back, and so my first question would be, okay, all right. I'm real skeptical about this guy's hands. He doesn't fight the ball at all.
I don't know about that.
He doesn't fight the ball. He just.
I'm talking the electricity with which he plays.
Yeah.
There seems to be an
Absolutely. And by the way,
electricity to him. Yes.
He was open in that Charger game. Now, the ball just didn't find him. That happens all the time. It happens in varsity games. It certainly happens in preseason games.
Happens when you played. All right,
Mr.
Slick
Magoo
up.
back there in the pocket trying to find somebody.
Slick up.
I want some Mo. I want some Mo Kaysen. Mo Kaysen.
Kaysen
Show me
Williams.
It's for real.
Okay, I got a McKissick and I got a Kaysen. Who are you most curious to watch play tonight, Dick Fain, when you're not watching the preseason games because you hate the preseason games?
I'll watch the preseason.
Okay, you'll watch a little bit.
But you watch him in a parka.
Yeah.
Dom DeLuise in the backfield.
Eddie Lacy. Fatso.
Wimpy pulling the hamburger out of the pocket, chopping on it,
That's
running
the guy.
for 4 yards.
That's your guy, Eddie Lacy. You're most curious to see Eddie
I'd
Lacy.
gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
All right. All right. So Eddie Lacy, are you curious in a negative sense or are you curious in a positive sense?
Well, no, I'm not.
Are you optimistic?
I'm not.
Like his has a lot of optimism around the McKissick.
but not
He's
the
got a lot.
Ifedi. Not the
Not
Ifedi.
the Ifedi. He's got a lot of optimism surrounding Kaysen Williams. It sounds to me
No,
like you're on the negative side.
I feel about Eddie Lacy the way you feel about the Mariners starting rotation. I hope Eddie Lacy succeeds.
Come on.
Just like you hope the Mariners starting rotation.
No, you don't feel the way about Eddie Lacy.
Okay, well maybe not that that extreme.
I've called the rotation as currently constituted the worst in the history of baseball that's ever gone after a playoff, that's ever been literally in competition for a playoff spot. Never has there been a worse rotation than the Mariners have.
What
right
I
now.
mean by that is that you're rooting for the Mariners starting rotation to succeed. I'm rooting for Eddie Lacy to succeed.
You don't think he's got it?
He's gonna be. I'm not thinking he's gonna say he's gonna be a bust and rush for 3 yards a carry and get yanked middle of the season, but he's nothing special.
I could, and my choice as we go to the phone calls in the next segment, my choice could vary. I could go right down the middle with you, like you would have done with Jermaine Ifedi. I could say Shaq again because I can't wait to see Shaq again.
Yep.
I could say Ibushi, Ifedi, Glowinski, Posick because the right side of that offensive line is in disarray and nobody knows. That would be easy.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go off the. Can I go off the radar a little bit?
Take me off the grid.
Can I take you off the grid? I'd like to see Amara Darboh play a football game.
Yeah.
I'd like to see this wide receiver out of Michigan that they drafted in the what?
Third round.
Third round. I'd
Yep.
like to see him catch a frickin' pass. Can I see that? Can I see him in his he's kind of tall, right? I'd like to see him work the middle of the
Kinda
field
tall and
on
kinda
a
strong.
slant or something. Can I see number 84 catch a frickin' pass?
If training camp's any indication, those two might be mutually exclusive. Seeing him in the football game and then seeing him catch a pass.
Yeah.
Am I wrong about
I've
this?
seen
I
the
wanna
ball
see
go
him
his way once.
Witness protection program for this guy. I would say, no question, biggest disappointment.
Absolutely.
Thus far,
For me, too.
of the draft picks. Now, I think
Tedrick Thompson, too.
Yeah, he's been. Those safeties. None of the young guys have popped. None of the. Right now, Shaq Griffin to me, I'm giving. Again, these are early reviews. You get
Look at him
called
how he
out
stopped.
like
he stopped himself.
You want to go double or nothing on a microphone?
Somebody's
you ran
gonna say,
right into the brick
somebody's
wall.
going to say, well, let's let him play a game before we put a yellow jacket on. Well, duh. Right? But I'm giving Shaq an A. Okay? And
how about McDowell?
Now, for everything else, somebody, please. I
But
want to be a lenient teacher.
If
give me anything close to an A with any other draft.
Mitch,
pick
if
right
I
now.
would have told you the day after the draft was over that you're going to have 6 Fs from this draft, but you're going to have an A, and that A was going to be Shaq Griffin,
That's the only one I
you were
would've
going to
wanted.
sign up for that.
Well, I don't know that I was going to sign
I don't know
up for
about that.
But if you said
I'm not
you
saying everybody's
going
gonna
to
be an F, but
now
if-
I thought what you're going to say is, Mitch, there's going to be 1A. You pick who you want to have
of
the A.
course, of course. But I think that would have been so important in that
Yes.
position.
I don't know. This is the guy
I
that
don't know.
for 2 years straight.
Here's
said,
what- here's
I
the
want
way
to
I-
draft
Wait.
Here's the way mine.
Hang on, no, before I got it because that's a real slam to say that. But let's go through this real quick.
Which
Malik
is the
McDowell, Posick, you and the worst offensive line in football. We're 2 weeks into this thing, and he's not a starter, and he doesn't necessarily appear to be. Now, I actually think if it's him and Ifedi, he's going to
gotta
beat
go.
him
So
out.
hurry
But
up.
go ahead.
Hurry up.
And then Darboh
Hurry
and
up.
the young safeties. Anyways, go ahead.
What I was going to say real quickly is
Yes.
looking at this from like an agent's perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm an agent and I represent young players and I'm trying to make a living for myself by representing young players, and I don't have all the stars like the Hugh Millans of the world. I'm not Marvin Demoff. I've got young players that are drafted in the middle rounds. I'm not one of these agents that has all the top-notch guys. You follow what I'm saying? And I'm trying to earn a living for myself.
Mm-hmm.
God, there's nothing more. I want to say to my client, Amara, I mean, do you want to play in the NFL? Get on the field. We need you to play. Some of these guys, they walk around like they think they've already made the team, like they don't have to do anything to go make. Some of, I mean, I don't know. Maybe
Hasn't he been hurt, though?
maybe Darboh would tell me I can't play. I can't physically play, Mr. Agent. I can't.
Well,
I
he
can't.
would.
But it seems like he's out there a little bit. I mean, sometimes he's out there, sometimes he's not. I just wonder with some of these guys, do they have the fire to be out? Jeremy Lane, get on the field. They just signed Tremaine Brock, Jeremy. If I'm Jeremy's agent right now, get on the field.
Knowing what we know about
Play.
Amara Darboh's past and the path they took to get here, I believe he's got the fire.
Okay.
I think if he can play, he's playing.
Okay. The calls are next. Who are you most curious to watch for whatever reason and why? Everybody who participates goes into the drawing for the 50-yard line seats to Game 16 between the Cards and Seahawks. And everybody who participates today, one of you is going to receive 50-yard line seats for the Vikings. right. Hugh Millen says Affetti and McKissick.
Who grabbed this guy's testicles? Who's singing this song?
Train.
Slickhawk says
It's called falsetto, Hugh. He's singing in
Well,
falsetto.
Kason Williams says Slickhawk.
Thank you.
Dick Fain says Dom DeLuise, a.k.a. Eddie Lacy. And I say Amara Darbo.
Yeah.
Who and why? Scott in Woodinville.
I say Justin Britt. After he just signed that contract extension, I want to see if he's still got some go get him or if he's just going to lay back and let it happen.
Well, it is a preseason game, but okay. Eric in Puyallup. Who and why?
I have Amara Darbo. I just want to see how this kid plays with the wide receiver crew and see if he really has what they talk about doing the draft and everything. So
I'm with you. I'm with you, kid. Pam and Issaquah. Who and why?
I want to see if this Brock guy is worth all this drama.
We'll have our eyes on Tremaine Brock. We haven't mentioned him yet. It's a good one. Jessica in Issaquah. Who and why?
I've got Tremaine Brock, too. He needs to earn his spot and prove he deserves another chance in the league.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll be watching Tremaine Brock. I'm sure we'll have plenty to say on Monday about him. Brian in Tacoma. Who and why?
It's not the sexiest pick, but Jimmy Graham. I'm optimistic that if he stays healthy and if Darrell Belleville can actually use him, he will be the leading tight end in rushing or in receiving and touchdowns this year.
In the NFL?
Oh, yeah. Overall.
Wow, that's
if
pretty
he stays healthy and if he's used properly.
You know, there's a lot of good ones these days. Have you noticed?
Yeah.
You've been paying attention to the
Gronk
tight end
and
situation.
Kelsey
There's a guy in
and Olsen.
Cincinnati. There's a guy in Philadelphia. There's a guy in Kansas
Travis,
City.
Kelsey's really
There's a lot of guys that are tight end is becoming a fashionable type of position all of a sudden.
And yet, there's only two guys who had over 1,000 yards, and both of those guys combined had 7 touchdowns. So your eyes are telling you one thing. I mean, that Kelsey guy looks like a receiver.
Yeah.
You know, but they don't make the impact that wide receivers make.
Ryan and Ballard, who and why?
Yeah, fashionable, but everybody gets hurt at tight end, right? I'm most excited to probably see how Shaq Griffin responds to this Tremaine Brock signing. I mean, it's not going to be Tremaine Brock as much today because he doesn't have time with the team yet. But the reason they brought him is to challenge these young guys in the secondary. So
I don't know about that.
It's going to
Ryan, I don't know about that. Listen to Hugh Millen on this. I think Hugh's a big guy on body profiling, and he does not look like an outside. He looks more like a guy who comes in to compete with Jeremy Lane for the nickel corner, the inside slot man corner.
Yes, I agree with that. And by the way,
yeah,
John Schneider told me out of his own mouth, body profiling is a quote-unquote huge part of what we do.
Okay.
So I'm not the only guy out there doing that, and they certainly do that at corner.
I want to take more before I give the 50-yard line seats to tonight's game and the drawing on the Cardinals-Seahawks game. I want to take a little bit more to start the next segment. Can I do that, Slickoff?
You can do whatever you want.
206-286-9595, 1-800-829-0950. There's actually a line open. All we want to know, if you want to be in these drawings for the 50-yard line seats, is who are you most curious to watch tonight for the Seahawks and why on 950 KJR? Oh, baby. Hey, Dick, did you know that training camp's about to begin in July and July 30th?
Not what it says. No, about to.
Well, it all has. Whatever it is all about to, it all has.
It has begun.
Vikings, Seahawks, 50-yard line seats. We're going to give them away in our next segment, in this segment. Call now, 206-286-9595, 1-800-829-0950. Who are you most curious to see play for the Seahawks? And why? Seahawks Vikings tonight. If you're really a degenerate, then the Seahawks are 3-point favorites with a total of 40. Not that I would know that.
Oh, boy. Those preseason football games.
Seahawks, a 3-point favorite, over-under of 40.
What I always say is if you're betting on the Pro Bowl or the preseason in the NFL, there's a phone number you need to call. And I'm a proponent of gambling, but
and I'll go
not
back.
in those situations.
I'll go back to what I said earlier on in the show. By the way, Mariners start a 12-game road trip. They've got 40 games to play, so 12 out of 40. Just less than 33, 36%, 33%. 12 out of 40. Right? 30% left.
Yeah.
30% of their games, 12 out of the next 12 in the 13 days on the road start tonight. In Tampa, they're 61-61 in their couple games. Game and a half out of the wild card in the American League. I'll say what I said in a different manner 2 or 3 hours ago. If I were, and we'll go back to the phone calls to see who people are curious to see. If I were Pete Carroll, I would call the coach of the Vikings, who is Mike Zimmer. Is that right?
Yep.
Is his first name Mike?
Yes.
I know his last name's Zimmer. I know he has eye problems.
It's not Don.
It's not Don. He has real bad eye problems.
Yeah, he does.
Really bad eye problems. I would call Mike Zimmer, and I'd say, Mike, shh, don't tell anybody I'm calling you. Can you do me a favor? No matter what the score is, with 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, I want to be behind by 2 with 3 seconds to go at the 31-yard line on offense. Can you make this happen for me? I want to be down by 2, no matter what. If we're beating you 49-3, I want you guys to score the next 50 or 40.
And you know what Mike would
48
say?
in a row.
You know what he'd say?
What?
He'd say, "Wait a second. So you're telling me you want Blair Walsh, our old kicker, to kick a 40? Sure, anything. There's no way he's going to make it."
I want the Seahawks, no matter how they look up until that point. I would love to see them, even though it's a preseason game, and I get it, there's no pressure. I'll bet you Blair Walsh will have some self-pressure on him in a new city, even if it's a preseason game. I want 47 yards. I don't want 52. This is a humilianism now. I don't want 38. I want 47 yards on a perfect August night. I want a perfect snap. I want a perfect hold, and I want perfect blocking. And I want to see Blair Walsh down 2 either win it or lose it with his foot and his technique and his guts and his intestinal fortitude. I want that.
Yeah.
I want to see that. And what I said to the guys 2 hours ago is, if he makes it, I'll learn a little. If he misses it, I'll learn a lot under those circumstances.
I see. Well, it wasn't my idea on 47 yards. I assume you settled on that number because it's the distance.
This is such a human conversation. What I'm about to have. We've had breakfasts with these types of conversations that last well into lunch. From breakfast well into lunch. But go ahead. Why did I pick 47?
Sounds like the distance at which an NFL kicker in a summer game, good weather, no wind, should be 50-50.
More than 50-50.
Well, I would say more.
Kickers these days are
50-50
from 50
I'd say
yards.
more than 50-50.
Should be expected to make, but it's difficult. How about that?
Make the kick.
What is your expression? 50-50 plus a feather?
Yeah.
Isn't that a youth?
That's the preponderance of the evidence.
You love 50-50 plus a feather, right?
Yeah, that's in civil court. That's actually.
Do you disagree with my 47-yard proposal? Or do you want 48? Do you want 49? What do you want?
Well, that distance is conspicuous to me because I've had a lot of time to think about the wide right in the Super Bowl, which was 47 yards. And I've thought, is 47 yards the
sweet
distance
spot
that you would say 50-50? In that regard, I probably was thinking through a Super Bowl winning kick with 2 seconds to go, so maybe 47 yards. But yes, that was a generation ago. Under normal circumstances in a regular season, I think the statistics would bear out that kickers are above 47 yards. But
come on, a beautiful August night in Seattle, Washington, with a perfect snap, a perfect hold, and perfect blocking in a preseason game.
He should make a 47
yard. You know what? Make the frickin' kick.
Really?
Right down the middle.
I'll take a look.
Make the kick.
Bang the cameraman.
Bang the frickin' cameraman. And if he doesn't, under those circumstances, I'm wondering.
Yeah.
I'm wondering whether we got the right guy. All right, let's go. Let's get some more calls in here. Who do you want to see and why? Curious to see and why. Everybody who participates today goes in for a today-only drawing for the 50-yard line seats for tonight's game. I'll email them to you. 50-yard line seats to see the Seahawks and Vikings tonight. Everybody who participates, whether you win tonight's tickets or not, goes into the big drawing, which is Game 16 between the Cardinals and Seahawks on New Year's Eve for the right for a bye. Let's call it a bye. It's a bye game. You like that, Dick? It's a bye game. New Year's Eve, win it, you get a bye. You get the number 2 seed, lose it, and you're the 3 seed or 4 seed as the West champions. All right? Let's just go with that. Sounds good. All right. Who's next? Phil in Lakewood has waited a long time. Go ahead, Phil. Who and why?
Eddie Lacy.
Okay.
And I just because I want to know if there's any hope that we're going to have a running game this year.
It's a fair comment. It's a fair comment. Chris and Renton, you're in the hat. Who and why?
Yeah, I'd like to see a beefed up George Fant. And I'd like to see what Tom Cable could do in his second year. One other thing, I think that Fant would be the guy that would win the street ball.
Oh, it would be Fant.
Yeah.
Be Fant. I know that some people have heard this before, but let's get off the street ball for a second. You have been bullish on what you've seen so far from Fant in the first preseason game and a little bit of training camp with the way his feet work and the way he looks physically to you, at left tackle.
I would never say. I wouldn't say that he really leapt out at me. Is that a word?
Leaped or leapt. They both work.
Okay. At practice, I guess no news is good news, like cornerbacks and left tackles.
Right.
But I thought he was really good for a substantial portion the other night. Now, he didn't play a ton of snaps, but I saw a guy that I could get really excited about.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. We like that.
Yeah.
Cameron, leave us alone, please. Just leave us alone. Who do you want to see and why?
Same as the last guy. I want to see George Fant.
George
I want
Fant.
to see, if last week was a good week or if he's going to go back to his old ways.
Yep.
Okay. Who's winning the?
Everson Griffin, by the way, the right end. Sorry, Mitchie. Coming off, he can play. This is going to be a good test for him early in this game. Watch early in this game.
206-286-9595. Who and why tonight? Bill and Linwood. Bill?
Well, I'm interested in seeing the left side of the line, Jokel in particular, because, being Russell's backside, I want to see if he's going to be a turnstile or not.
Bill, did you know that no left guard played better than Luke Jokel did in 2016?
I heard that.
Well, believe what you want.
Okay. Aaron in Federal Way. Who would you like to see? Who you're curious to see tonight and why?
A couple of people, the new Legion of Boom, because they did a lot of draft picks, and I want to see what maybe the future might be like.
Okay. Shaq Griffin and the 3 safeties, Mike Tyson and Tedrick Thompson, and who am I missing? Hill, Delano Hill out of Michigan. Joey and Fife, who would you like to see and why? Who are you curious to see and why tonight?
I'm going with Blair, too, but in all seriousness, I think you're off by 6 yards. I want to see a 41-yarder at the end of the game because I want to see something that they're like 75% chance you should make.
Yeah, but here's – okay, let me argue with that for a second. Let me tell you why I don't like 41-year-old.
Sure.
If he makes the 41-yarder like he's supposed to, 75%, 80%, whatever it is, we come in on Monday, are we really – okay, Blair Walsh is the guy – he made a 41. Now, we're probably not like that at 47 either because it is a preseason game. But 41.
What if it's
41?
54? What if he wins?
41 doesn't do anything for me. I need more than 41. What? Why not deeper?
Why not go 52, 54?
Because then if he misses it, we got an excuse. It was a long one. It was a long one.
49.
I like 47. I'm staying with 47. Okay. John in Aberdeen. Who and why?
Chris Carson, like in midfield. I want to see him get the ball in space. I don't want to see him down the goal line.
Yeah, that's good.
Also, I would like to also see what it's going to look like for training camp when it opens on the 31st.
Slickcock, that one was for you.
A little zinger.
Aaron in Seattle. Who and why?
All I do is what I'm told.
Band-Aid. Who and why, Aaron? You're in the hat for the tickets, 50-yard liners. Go ahead.
So I'm thinking Nazir Jones.
Oh.
After last week's performance against
Jones.
the Chargers.
Yeah, get a little push.
Was he just overshadowed by Mr. ATV? And is he now the breakout performer on the defensive line?
You know, the guy that I'd like to see, somebody's got to tell me whether he's playing, is Quentin Jefferson. I've never seen Quentin Jefferson line up and play for the Seahawks, and he's supposed to be the guy they drafted last year out of Maryland. He's supposed to be a guy who could get a little
Naz
upfield
Jones,
thing
we
going.
talked about how many guys are in the vicinity of an A. You could say Naz Jones.
Really? You like Naz? You like yourself some Naz Jones?
It's okay. It's okay.
Well, that's not an A.
Well, I mean,
what the hell? It's okay. You give him an A and then you go, it's okay.
So if I'm really being truthful,
B.
He didn't jump out to me as much as he apparently jumped out to other people.
Okay.
But I can recognize that he's solid. So I'd be comfortable with a B.
Mitch, the NFL kickers made 57% of their 50-plus yard field goals last year.
57?
Yeah, but that's not game-ending.
No,
last
but it's
2
also
seconds.
regular season and not preseason.
Yeah.
So what has more pressure? A regular season 50-yarder that doesn't win a game or a preseason 50-yarder that does win a game?
Depends on who you are. Okay. I think Blair Walsh comes along with some added self-pressure that very few other kickers have during the preseason. Come on. That guy is walking around knowing what he did. And knowing that...
I got a kicker story for you on pressure.
Kicker?
Liquored up kicker.
Liquored up kicker?
Yeah, I got a kicker story for you.
Let's get John in Seattle first in here. Go ahead, John. Who and why?
Jermaine Kearse. Because this might be the year they say goodbye to him, and he has to step up. There's so much heat right now. You've talked about the different type of wide receivers that are there. He really needs to shine, or he's gone.
Anxious
well,
to see Kearse.
I would have, I don't necessarily disagree with John, and I think part of it is because Richardson made a much quicker recovery than anybody expected. It seemed like when Richardson got hurt and they started talking AC joints and they started talking several weeks, I put away the whole thought of Jermaine Kearse maybe not making the team. But now Richardson's back on the practice field quickly, and he may not play tonight, but now you got to reintroduce yourself to the idea or the notion that maybe 15 is not safe.
Well, you got Kason Williams, got Tanner McAvoy, you got maybe this McKissick kid, Amara Darbo. There's some guys just get the bit in your mouth and let's go, let's run.
Chris and Tequila.
Eddie Lacy with Thomas Rawls out. I'd love to see him run a full quarter and see where he's at.
That's not an easy front seven to run against, too. By the way,
the
Minnesota Vikings will hit you. Will kick you in the teeth. They'll kick you in the teeth.
Yeah, they got Barr. They got a great safety. That
Harrison
Smith.
Harrison Smith. Andrew in Lake Terrace, Mount Lake Terrace.
Yes, sir, you got it. Yeah, all the receivers in general. Let's be honest here. We've got Kearse, we've got Richardson, we've got Lockett coming back from injury. We've got a couple new guys. I kind of want to see them shine tonight. Come on, step up.
All right. Okay. Patrick in Puyallup, who and why tonight?
I want to see let's see CJ Procise tonight. I mean, Rawls being out, let's see if he can take the real spot.
Yeah. That's a good one. That's a good one. By the way, was anybody else kind of taken aback by this oft-injured running back in the second half of the game one of the preseason in Los Angeles last week, covering kicks? I was like...
Was he covering kicks?
In the second half of preseason game number 1, C.J. Procise was covering kicks, and I was like...
I don't like that idea.
Wow! What is he doing out there covering kicks? I mean, the guy's... he's you blow in his ear and he separates a shoulder, for God's sakes.
I don't know.
He's covering kicks,
I think if you moved into this town a year ago and you listen to enough people talk for long enough in this town, you think that C.J. Procise is Marshall Faulk.
Okay, but you got to agree, the most marquee game, regular season game in a long time amongst a team that has a lot of marquee regular season games every year. The most marquee game in maybe the last 5 years regular season was a win on the road on national TV against the New England Patriots, right?
Number 1 win of the regular season last year, no question.
How about in the last 5 years?
In the NFL.
How about since the Pete era?
I'm not talking about the Seahawks. I'm talking about the NFL.
Okay, I'm talking about the Seahawks.
Yeah.
So the
biggest
the most
season
marquee
game,
regular season win in forever on the road in New England. He was unbelievable. So that's earned him what you're talking, what you're chuckling at. That's earned.
I think he was.
He was great that day.
How
many did he have? How many did he have?
100 $120.
Yeah. Well.
Okay.
And Thomas Rawls had 160 against Cincinnati.
Cincinnati was at 10 a.m. in Cincinnati against the Bengals.
Really, really good. He was really good in that game. And so the stats, something you could have 190 yards. You'd have just. There's also the part of what your eyes tell you. He was really, really, really good. But I just get the feeling that people think that it was. I don't
Superhuman.
know, something more than I saw.
JJ and Renton, you get the last word. Who do you like to see and why?
I want to see Case and Williams. The reason being, he had a great game last week, and if he can keep the momentum going, does he earn a spot on this team?
Well, he's an interesting kind of case study. We've talked a lot about him. We all like him from his Skyline days. We all like him from his UW days. He's not going to – I don't think he's going to help you on special teams. I think Kason Williams is one of these kind of receivers who is either going to make it purely as a receiver or not make it purely as a receiver. Or does he go out and is he going to cover on
the
special
teams? He's been on the teams.
All right. Okay.
You may be right, Mitch. I'm not going to.
What would you say right
by
now?
The way,
percentages of him making the team, not the practice squad. What would you give?
I hate this.
Kason Williams. Yeah. What would you say?
Falls into predictions.
All right. Well. All right. So is he? If you had to bet it one way, is he more likely or less likely? Is he an odds-on favorite to make the final squad, or is he a feather short of 50% to make the squad? Feather more, or feather short?
He's been in there, and of course, if they have 6, then I would say I'd feather him in. Maybe 5, feather him out. I think he is
right on the fence,
on the blade of a knife. By the way, Marshawn Lynch against I believe the Bears opening game.
Yeah,
slick first game. He had 41 yards, if I have it right. If you can look up the game log there, you and I and everybody was talking about that's the most impressive 41 yards you could ever, and we were just electrified by a 41 yards.
I remember the Monday morning quarterback after that.
I think you can be more impressed by a 41-yard performance than 120 in theory.
Hugh.
Oh, don't give me the Hugh. No.
Okay.
No. I'm going to go Mitch.
I'm trying to explain something to you. You're asking the question, why is everybody so gaga over CJ Prosise?
Yeah. Really,
I'm giving you a very simple.
Good in that game.
I'm giving you a simple explanation. The Seattle world was watching that game, and he stood out. And everybody who didn't know him before that game knew him after that game, and they're waiting for the return of that player.
Yeah, but
it's
hang on.
It's a simple answer.
I don't want to. No. Yeah, but I'm gonna look. I'm gonna carry this out.
Okay.
We've all seen great backs. We've seen Walter Payton. We've seen Eric Dickerson. We've seen Emmitt Smith. We've seen Barry Sanders. We know when a guy is making something out of nothing and making guys miss and getting yards, and it might just be a 6-yard gain, and you say that is brilliant. And we've also seen guys get a 15-yard gain, and you say I can get or I can find guys at the mall that could have got 15 yards on that one.
What mall?
So look, I look at stats a lot. I reference stats. Stats tell stories, but they don't always tell all the story. And so I feel like I'm back in a corner where I'm acknowledging he was really good.
And that's
for
why
that game.
But that's only people
but
are
he
curious.
Wasn't. It was. But I get the sense.
But people aren't saying that he's great.
Well,
they're saying that they want to see more from him. They're curious to see if he's healthy, if he could be more like the guy he was against the Patriots.
Somehow I'm not communicating because to my eyes I didn't see the greatness that I think I hear from other people.
Okay,
that's all.
All right.
What?
We're gonna get a winner.
A winner?
I've randomly selected a winner.
Are we gonna hear from Pete Carroll in our next segment?
No, Marshawn Lynch.
Why not Pete Carroll?
Because Marshawn Lynch is way more entertaining.
Well,
why
Pete
was
Carroll's
Carroll
newsworthy, though.
Why was Carroll on the board then?
We can do
in
both.
the earlier parts of the show, in the more high-profile parts of the show.
Because that's what we have scheduled at 8:45 every day is podium sound.
I say Pete Carroll. I vote Pete Carroll.
Well, why don't we hear the funny part of Marshawn Lynch? You don't have to play the whole thing.
It takes 8 seconds to play Marshawn Lynch.
The whole thing is funny.
How long is it?
5 minutes.
Elephants and mice and stuff?
It's Marshawn Lynch.
Just pick a number. Just pick a random number, and you guys call him off the air. No, I don't want to call him on the air. Just pick a random number, and give that person 50-yard line seats to tonight's game and put everybody else in the hat for the drawing for the Week 16 game against the Cardinals. All right? We'll figure it out. Once we got great debate, we'll figure out whether we're going to hear from Marshawn, we're going to hear from Pete Carroll, or we're going to hear from both next on 950 KJR.
Nah, you just don't want to talk really. I'm just about that action, boss. I'm just about that action. I'm just about that action, boss. You ready to go get it? You just about that action, boss. I'm just about that action.
Who's the winner?
I'm just about that action, boss. Beast mode.
Ryan in Ballard.
Ryan in Ballard. Yes. Is the winner of tickets to tonight's game?
Ryan in Ballard.
Is the winner of tickets to tonight's game?
Yes.
You got it. Ryan, congratulations to Ryan in Ballard. Have you notified him?
No.
You've still not notified him?
No.
So I'm notifying him right now.
Yeah, he's just found out.
Okay. Ryan in Ballard is the winner on 950 KJR. Here's the Beast Mode's interview and being asked, I guess it's a press conference, being asked about kneeling during the national anthem.
Much fun. The elephant in the room on Saturday. There's a lot of attention towards you not standing for the national anthem.
I think that elephant just left the room because a little mouse ran in here. Didn't they say elephants are scared of mouses or something? That motherfucker left, cousin.
Coach Del Rio really gives players the space to be themselves while still, be part of the team mentality.
Yeah, because on Dr. 24, it's a design way that you're supposed to run it, but I have all freedom to go any and which way that I choose to, run it. So I would say, yeah.
Having gone through this camp, do you feel like that year away might have rejuvenated you mentally, physically, or did you feel kind of like pick up where you left off?
To be honest, I would say just getting my mentality back, to waking up early and having to go and, do something physical to, in order to get my body back to, playing to its playing ability was probably the hardest thing for me because I'm not a morning person. But, after that was over, it was straight.
Did you miss playing football last year?
No.
Do you feel better now?
That again, boss? Oh man, it's it's truly a blessing, and just to have the opportunity to go and do that. You said my who?
Just how much easier is it going to be for you to be involved in the community now that you're actually going to be living in Oakland?
I plan on continuing to do what I'm doing in the community. I just it'll probably just be that now that I'm here, maybe more people that's in the community might come out and actually support what it is that we got going on. So,
There's some other young running backs on this team. Most of the other running backs are real young. Have they been coming up to you, approaching you much for advice? What do you think of those guys?
They all are talented, and the biggest thing is, most of them probably was watching me while they was in middle school or high school. So, it's kind of crazy. I call all of them my kids, so I'm all like daddy. So, you know what I'm saying though. But just to watch them work and to see the work that they put in is a blessing. And at the same time though, I want to make sure that I uphold their standard of what they put on film, and they all good. So, I just want to make sure that I fit in with them dudes and continue to just run the ball like the Raiders have been.
Marshawn, there's going to be a lot of people that are wearing your jersey in the Coliseum Saturday. Will it matter to you if they sit or stand for the anthem?
So when we run 74 or something like that, where I got to scan, read on both sides, that'd be pretty difficult. But, for the most part, I'm a veteran, so I can make it work.
Just didn't answer it.
Well, just the ones that ask for it. If they ask, then I don't withhold no information from them because I want to see all of them succeed, but I don't force nothing upon nobody. But thank y'all. Appreciate it. Y'all have a good day.
You ready to go get it?
My question is, and I know I'm asking a rational question about an irrational guy.
Yeah.
So maybe it doesn't make sense to even ask it. Why sit for the national anthem if you're then not willing to express why you're sitting for the Isn't the whole point of sitting for the national anthem
for everybody else?
Well, not for everybody necessarily.
Or is it just because I don't feel like I want to stand?
Well, he says he's been doing it for a decade.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think for him, maybe it's, I don't know.
What is it?
Yeah.
I mean, typically, you would think that anybody who doesn't, any American, male, female, dog, or cat, that chooses voluntarily, that's an adult, that chooses voluntarily to not stand for the national anthem, should have a reason.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, that's not necessarily true. People look around the stadium. Look. I guess not tonight. We're not going, but next game, people that aren't standing or that are talking or drinking beer or whatever they're doing during the national anthem. Some people just don't participate.
You see a lot of people sitting down during the national anthem.
I see
at
people
a ball
sitting
game.
down. Sure.
Do you ever get confronted?
Really?
No, I don't know. Maybe, probably. I don't know.
I gotta
sitting
say,
down.
I gotta say, I don't see a lot of people.
I don't think I've ever seen anybody sitting down.
Now I've seen people hold a beer.
Yeah.
And
forget to take their hats
make
off.
Their hats
off.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe talk to their buddy. But boy, I don't see sitting down. And
not everybody participates.
What in the net of it for me, as I've expressed, I don't think Michael Bennett should do that. But I got to tell you, I am taken by the comments that he's made.
Who are we talking about now?
Michael
Marshawn
Bennett.
Lynch.
Michael Bennett.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a contrast.
Right.
I think Michael Bennett, as he's described it, very, very eloquent. There's a credibility. There's a sincerity. While I don't, again, support, I tell you, he sounds really compelling to me, and that's nothing but a sincere credit to him and compliment to him, and so he makes you think, and I think he's doing a great job of that. But Marshawn Lynch, who I love as a Seahawk, snap the whistle, love that guy. To see the picture of him sitting on a cooler, eating a banana, whatever it was, it didn't matter, but I don't know. I wasn't anywhere remotely gripped with the introspection of Marshawn Lynch. Obviously, he's not giving us any chance to commend him.
No.
Where Michael Bennett is giving us ample opportunity, even if you disagree with the stance.
Right.
I think you can be really.
I just don't
really
see
impressed
America
with how he's handling that.
I guess there could be some people sitting during anthems, but I would say about a guy, if there was a guy in my section, I go to all the games. There's not one person in my section that does not stand during the anthem.
If there
was, I would say maybe he doesn't realize the anthem's actually being played right now. He's caught up in talking to his buddy or something, and he loses track of what's going on.
Well, if there's somebody sitting in the stands and blatantly knows what's going on and is just sitting in the stands, somebody around him is going to yell at him and say, "Stand the bleep up," and then you got some issues then in the stands.
And again, if that person who's sitting in the stands has a reason, he probably would say, here's why I'm not standing. Mm-hmm. I'm protesting this or I'm protesting that. For Marshawn Lynch to refuse to stand and then refuse to say, here's what I'm thinking, then it makes you feel like he's just for the F of it, just sitting down. I'm just I'm just trying to get some publicity here or whatever. I just don't feel like getting it. My legs are tired. I'm trying to save my legs for there's no protest, there's no reason, there's no social quality or reason why I'm sitting. I'm just keeping my legs fresh so I can play football at the highest level. Something like that. It leads you to believe that's the only reason.
Have we seen video evidence of the last 10 years that Marshawn Lynch actually sat for the last decade on the sidelines?
He sat sometimes and he stood sometimes.
I've watched him.
I don't remember that ever.
When did you ever look for it?
First of all,
well, they're looking for it now. Why wouldn't they look for it then?
First of all, have they always been out on the field during the anthem, or are they sometimes in the locker room?
Sometimes I was going to just say that.
Is it possible that
I've
he's
seen
in
him
the
come
locker
out
room?
Late. He's come out late.
And I feel like I've seen him on one of those life cycles, one of those stationary bicycles, maybe during the national. But I don't have any. Believe me,
And
Please.
you watch closer than
hold
anybody.
Hold on a second. But forget me for a second. This whole nonsense that Marshawn Lynch has been sitting during the national anthem for years, like he just did in Oakland the other night, is bogus because had he been, it would have been written about.
Of course
it would have been talked about.
There's pictures of him sitting on the bench during the national anthem. I've seen them in the last week.
Okay, send them to me.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Listen,
The Seattle Times would have written an article about Marshawn Lynch not standing for the national anthem if he was doing it repeatedly.
Yeah.
That just didn't slip everybody's eye.
No, this is...
And that's not just a Marshawn being Marshawn. Somebody would have made at least a note in a newspaper.
Somewhere.
Marshawn Lynch
totally
did not stand for the national anthem.
This is
ridiculous that he was doing it for 10 years.
In basic logic, this is called denying the consequent. If antecedent, then consequent. If Marshawn Lynch had been sitting for the national anthem, then we would know about it publicly. We don't know about it publicly, therefore we can deduce the conclusion is that he did not sit.
I've seen pictures of him sitting in the Seahawks uniform, sitting during the national anthem. Everybody else is standing. Marshawn Lynch is sitting. I've also seen pictures where he's standing. Sometimes he sat, sometimes he stood.
Yeah, well, then,
send the pictures.
Then
let's see the pictures. I want to see the pictures.
Then the premise is false.
It's a picture of him just sitting, huh?
Yeah.
And so how do we know the national anthem is going on?
Because everybody else is standing like this.
Okay. All right. I like to see the pictures. I've never seen a picture. I've never seen it noted. I've never seen it written about. I got a hard time believing that it was happening for 10 years. He's suggesting that it happened on multiple occasions, that he would sit during the anthem on the side. This is before Kaepernick. Before any athlete chose to do it,
when he's in
Marshawn Lynch was there.
He's in the Blueberries Seahawks uniform.
Marshawn Lynch, okay, and was there ever a note? Was there ever a note about it in the newspaper? Did everybody just miss it? Nobody ever caught it?
No, I never.
That's hard to believe. As we continue on a Friday edition on 950 KJR. Great debate is next. All right, Slick Hawk. This better be good.
Well, I hope so. If Richardson is healthy, the wide receiver depth chart looks like this. Baldwin's a lock. Lockett's a lock. Richardson's a lock. Then a mix of Curse, Wilson, Cyril Grayson, Tanner McAvoy, J.D. McKissick, and Mara Darbo.
How about David Moore?
I'm not really counting him.
Why?
I think you should. If
Why
you're
are you
have
not
that
counting
list,
David Moore?
That long of a list.
Or did you forget about him?
I didn't forget about him.
And now you're saying you're not really counting on him. Who outside of the regulars did you count on besides David Moore?
Jermaine Kearse, Kason Williams, Cyril Grayson, Tanner McAvoy, J.D. McKissick, and Amara Darbo. Those are the 6 that people have talked about making the team. I haven't heard David Moore mentioned once as a possibility to make the opening day roster.
Well, you're not listening then. He's been mentioned just as much as Darbo. He's been mentioned just as much as Cyril Grayson. He's been mentioned just as much. You're not listening to the 12th Man Roundtable that you produce every day. Those guys have come on. Call Bob and Greg and find out whether they've talked about David Moore. They have talked about it more than one occasion.
Making the final 6?
He is just a part of that mix. He is as much a part of that mix as those other guys.
Okay, well, of those 6, which I guess is now 7, which 3 make the roster?
First of all, do we know it's 3?
No, but it's a guess.
It could be 5 and it could be 6, right? And it could be 7. It's most likely to land on 6.
Right.
So you're putting who on?
Baldwin, Lockett, and Richardson.
3. Yeah.
So I'm saying, who are the other 3? If it's 3 more.
Who should they be or who will they be?
Who will they be?
Are you counting a practice squad spot?
No.
No.
Because Darbo probably will be put on the practice squad because I don't think anybody will put him on the active roster.
I don't think a third-round draft pick is going to make it through waivers.
He might if everybody.
I doubt it.
They got to put him on the active roster. Somebody else, some other team does.
Should and will are 2 different questions.
I don't have to.
For Hugh Millen, should and will are 2 different questions. Sure. Because he would involve one guy in will and would not involve him in should.
Well, so would I.
Yeah, but I'm not sure that I would.
Yeah, put him in will. He's going to make the team. Jermaine Kearse is going to make the team. I'd bet a lot of money on it.
Yeah, Kearse on
at even money.
I'm betting a lot of money, or am I doing a radio?
No, I'm saying I would bet a lot of money at even money that Jermaine, if somebody gave me the opportunity at 50-50 to bet right now, I'd put a big chunk of change on Jermaine Kearse making the team. That's what I'm saying.
I would, but there's still hope.
There's still hope.
All right, so if we think, he said will. So if we think Jermaine, we're all in agreement then that Jermaine's going to make the team.
I think so, yeah.
No.
Will.
Well, for the purposes of this?
Will.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, that's 4.
Yeah.
Now,
are you putting David Moore in there?
Just go ahead,
now,
please.
Now, how about the others?
Well, I think Tanner McAvoy has got a great chance to make the team.
Does he play special teams? You have to play
Yeah.
special teams now when we get down to these spots, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Tanner McAvoy. Who's ahead, Grayson? I think Moore's ahead of Grayson, isn't he? Grayson has not shown that he can be a receiver yet. So I think Moore is clearly ahead of Grayson. He's got to be ahead of Darbo.
Yeah.
Right? Moore ahead of Darbo, Moore ahead of Grayson right now. Although Grayson could make it for special teams reasons. But why is Grayson not returning punts and kicks?
I hate Russell Roulette. I don't know. I think that McKissick has a great chance to make the team as a jack of all trades, utility knife. So I want to put him in there. I want to put McAvoy, but then Darbo doesn't deserve it. Darbo's probably done the least of all the guys. Darbo has in terms of production has done the least.
Well, 0, you can't be worse than 0.
I still think that they they like the size and what have you, and I love the size too. The guy looks great coming off the bus.
There's also Kenny Lawler who caught a touchdown.
not going to make it.
Oh yeah, you got to throw Kenny Lawler in there.
There's also
too.
Kenny Lawler.
You got to throw Kenny Lawler in there too.
I don't think he's.
Yeah, but you throw him into the mix if you're going to have the conversation. You got to have everybody in there. Lawler's in there, Case and Williamson. So what do we got? We got the 3. We got Jermaine Kearse's 4. Do we have Case and Williams as 5?
I'd put him in there.
Well, he's probably going against Tanner McAvoy right now.
So Tanner McAvoy 5, Case and Williams 6. None of the other guys make it.
No McKissick. Well, are you going to use Lockett as both kick and punt returner right away?
No.
Then who? I mean, McKissick would be the guy probably.
Why have we not seen Cyril Grayson return kicks and punts? He's the sprinter. That's what they said he'd be unbelievable at doing right out of the gate. Let him. Can he not catch one? What's the problem?
He's dropped a couple.
Does he have butterfingers? Why is he not out there in preseason games in the second half returning kicks and punts?
Well, it's only been one game.
Sounds to me like they've already written him off.
McKissick may make it from another position. He may, he's been a running back. I don't know.
He's willing him. He's willing him to the roster.
I want to see the guy.
He's trying to get him.
I'd like to see him with the ball in his hands on a. He's running a shallow cross. There's not anybody in the TV screen from him, and I was like, give this guy the ball. He's a running back. He's a great. He's got punt return ability. He's been a running back. Get the ball in his hands. The guy can make people miss. He's durable. I don't know.
How do you know he's durable? You just threw in the durable. You just kind of threw in the durable.
I
You thought that it would get by me.
He's trying.
Did you really
I
think
haven't heard about any injuries.
You think you're on the afternoon show, or you think you're on the morning show?
Yeah, that was I don't
durable.
know. Although I'll bet you he is durable.
Well, you just threw a durable.
He looks durable. He took some hits, and the way he pops up, he's thick.
Oh, come on. Don't try to.
Do you know that he's not durable?
Don't try to.
Let me ask you this: Do you know that he's not durable?
You said he is.
Has he been out there?
Huh?
Has he been out there?
Yeah.
Has he missed a practice?
No.
Do you know him to have been injured in Atlanta?
No.
Okay, so you don't know.
How do you know he's durable?
Well, he hasn't missed a practice.
You're out of your mind.
He's thick.
He's thick.
Durable. He's durable.
Durable.
He's
smart.
I saw what you did there.
He's smart. He's got a lot of heart.
Don't try tossing.
He's a good cook.
Adjectives
With the hits to both Paxton and Felix, is it still a good idea to go after a Justin Verlander to try and salvage the season long enough to get everybody healthy at the same time?
$70 million.
Not exactly. It's 56 and whatever's left this year.
Yeah, about a quarter of the season, which is $70 million.
You know, you could
because
do
a quarter of 56
you
is.
You could do a probability. You could
70.
do an expected probability on the money.
Quarter of 56 is 14.
You could do a math equation on this if you wanted to.
Meaning,
if you want to go back to statistics class and expected outcomes and so forth, you could do a fairly decent evaluation of whether it makes sense to bring them in. You could. I'm not going to do it.
Well, you don't know for sure what he's going to eat. I mean,
There's no for sures. There's no for sure.
He's 8-8 with a 4.18 ERA this year.
You got to first assign probabilities to whether he's the tilt, whether he tilts them in the right into the playoffs. That's the first probability you got to figure out. Then you got to start to do the math on what does it mean to the Mariners' bottom line financially if they did make the playoffs. Whether the one game's on the road or one game's here. Let's say they made it to a playoff series in the second round.
Okay.
So now they're hosting a couple of games of playoffs. You could do a nice evaluation of what you get back for the money that you're going to commit to him. I'm not saying you have certainties. There's no certainties.
Well, I don't think financially you would ever reap the benefits of $70 million. But
you would catch up.
But this is baseball. There's no salary cap, and so I'm willing to throw their money at Justin Verlander.
There's a little bit of a salary cap.
Yes, there is a salary.
There's a little bit of a salary.
What do you mean
cap.
a little bit?
There's a
self-imposed salary cap.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is, you got to and I'm not saying I'm for it or against it. In discussing it, the following question has got to be asked and answered in the discussion, and that is what they won't do during the off season if they have him versus what they would have done had they not acquired his salary. That is a big, and I'm not saying that's a reason to do it or not do it, but if you don't at the very least acknowledge that they will not do some things in free agency if they acquire him. That's what he's talking about, self-imposed salary cap. They acquire that salary. I don't know what you wanted them to go out and buy. Now, maybe Slickock would say you want them to go out and buy a pitcher.
Of course. What would they have gone out and bought? They would have gone out and bought a pitcher.
Whatever it is.
Well, now you're just buying it now.
Maybe you would have acquired a guy in a trade that comes salary with him that you now would not do. A younger guy. I'm just saying to me that's the crux to the conversation. Yeah. A, what does he do for you this year? What do you feel like he does for you this year? And B, what is the impact of his salary on the books to what you are willing to do during the offseason? That's the conversation. That's longer than for today's
By the
show.
way, in his last six starts, we're starving for innings from our starters. 4 of the last 6 games, he went 7 innings or more. 5 out of the last 6 games, he's had quality starts.
Okay, got it. Let's do another show now. Let's hear from some other voices.
I hate the weasel. The new Chuck and Puck show is next.